Chapter 861. All the ribs in his body were shattered by the wind from the dark flame palm, and the fragments of those ribs directly stabbed into his 5 viscera and 6 bowels. Ma Dragonfly fell heavily to the ground with a thud. After struggling for a while, he finally breathed his last breath with his eyes wide open. Not far away, Qing Zhongfan, who was keeping a lookout, jumped in fright. He looked at Ma Dragonfly, who was bleeding from all 7 orifices, and then looked up at Xiao Qin, who was walking out of the room. He stood there in a daze for a while and his body trembled. He seemed to understand what he was here for. He did not know where he got the strength from, but he quickly picked up Ma Dragonfly's corpse and ran out without looking back. Xiao Qin originally wanted to chase, but after walking 2 steps, he hesitated and turned back. He did not know what drug Ma Dragonfly had drugged Qing Menjing. If it was harmful to her body, it would not be good if it acted up. "Young miss, are you okay?" Xiao Qin came to Qing Menjing's bedside and gently pushed her, but she did not wake up. She was still lying on the bed with her eyes closed in a deep sleep. Without a choice, Xiao Qin could only hold Qing Menjing's hand and infuse some yuan qi to check her body. After dispersing the remaining smoke in her body, Qing Menjing slowly woke up. "Oh, Xiao Qin, what happened? Why are you in my room?" Qing Menjing felt her head was very heavy, and her mind was in a daze like a ball of paste. She opened her eyes and saw Xiao Qin sitting beside her, so she asked weakly, "Oh, that. Just now, when you were sleeping, Ma Qingting drugged you with a sleeping gas. She wanted to rape me. What did you do?" Xiao Qin checked and let go of her hand after confirming that there was nothing wrong with her body. "What?" Qing Menjing jumped in fright and immediately sobered up. She immediately sat up and carefully checked her pajamas. She only relaxed when she found they were intact. "It's okay, I stopped him before he succeeded." Seeing Qing Menjing's flustered appearance, Xiao Qin quickly comforted her. Qing Menjing let out a sigh of relief and then scolded angrily, "That Ma Dragonfly is too despicable. He actually used such a despicable method to deal with me. Xiao Qin, quickly teach him a lesson for me." Apart from feeling disgusted, Qing Menjing also felt a lingering fear for no reason. Fortunately, Xiao Qin was by her side this time, protecting her at all times. Otherwise, it was very likely that Ma Qingting would have succeeded. If that really happened, she would not have the face to continue living in the future. Xiao Qin rubbed his nose and said innocently, I don't think I can teach him a lesson." Ma Dragonfly, "Wow, Xiao Qin, you actually dare to not listen to me? Believe it or not, I will clear out your villa." Qing Menjing glared at Xiao Qin and shouted, completely forgetting that Xiao Qin was no longer her servant. "That's not it. Actually, I already killed him just now, so even if you want me to teach him a lesson, I have no target." Xiao Qin shrugged and explained simply. Qing Menjing exclaimed, and her anger turned to worry. She looked at Xiao Qin and said, "Why did you kill again?" "He dared to have improper thoughts towards you, so I killed him directly. It was already letting him off easy." Xiao Qin snorted coldly. Then he thought of something. "Oh, that's right. Qing Zhongfan was outside earlier as well. It looks like he was keeping watch nearby. However, in order to see if you were fine, I didn't kill him as well." However, although he downplayed it, Xiao Qin had a faint feeling of uneasiness in his heart. It seemed that he shouldn't have let Qing Zhongfan go so easily, and he didn't know why. Qing Zhongfan. He was the one who should have been beaten to death. He used to think of ways to frame you, and he even betrayed the Qing family. This kind of scum should have died long ago. Qing Menjing clenched her small fist angrily and waved it in the air. She was obviously very dissatisfied. Xiao Qin smiled noncommittally. If it were his temper in the past, he might have long killed Qing Zhongfan. But now Xiao Qin felt that he was no different from a dead person. As long as he didn't do something too overboard and didn't touch his bottom line, he would let Qing Zhongfan live an ignoble existence for the time being. Either way, his backer had already fallen. Even if he lived, it was also a fate worse than death. Qing Zhongfan sprinted madly all the way with Ma Qingfei's corpse on his back. Rushing to Ma Baijia's room, he banged heavily on the door a few times and shouted in a hoarse voice, "Sect Master Ma, things are bad." Young Sect Master was killed by Xiao Qin. "Who's making a big fuss? What did you say?" Ma Baizhi was currently cultivating in the room. Hearing someone knocking on the door, he was displeased in his heart and was just about to berate when he suddenly heard such a sentence. Anger immediately rushed to his head, and he almost went berserk. Forcefully suppressing the churning demonic qi in his body, Ma Baizhi rushed out in a hurry. Just as he stepped out of the door, the first thing he saw was Ma Qingfei lying on the ground covered in blood, motionless with a face full of death. Ma Baizhi turned pale with fright and directly pounced forward, shaking his son's corpse with a face full of inexplicable grief. Seeing this, Qing Zhongfan didn't dare to make a sound. He stood blankly at the side like a wooden stake, a myriad of thoughts tumbling endlessly in his head. Usually, relying on Ma Qingfei's backing, he had always been bossy in the Qian sect, and even offended a lot of people because of this. Now that his backer was gone just like that, would there be a lot of people anxiously waiting to settle the score with him? Sigh, if I had known earlier, I would have just run away. Why did I have to go through the trouble of bringing Ma Qingfei's corpse over? Looking at the sect master's sorrowful look, if he became muddle-headed in anger and wanted to kill me to accompany his son in death, wouldn't I die a wrongful death? Tell me clearly, what exactly happened? Why did Xiaoqin lay his hands on Ma Qingfei? As Qing Zhongfan's imagination ran wild, Ma Baizhi suddenly grabbed his collar and roared furiously. Ma Baizhi simply hated Qing Zhongfan to the core. Previously, it was because of his nonsense that he was forced to reveal the news of Qi Tian sect to Xiaoqin. Now he even brought the grievous news of his son's tragic death. If he didn't need him to explain the situation, Ma Baizhi would have killed him with a slap. Qing Zhongfan was sweating profusely and hurriedly answered, Reporting to sect master, it was young sect master who wanted to look for Qing Minjing at night, to chat. In the end, that Xiaoqin went crazy for some reason and directly rushed in and killed young sect master. I was quite far away at that time. When I wanted to rush over, it was already too late. Naturally, Qing Zhongfan dared not tell the truth. After all, in the eyes of martial artists, using knockout smoke and poison were some despicable tricks. As the dignified young sect master of Kuei Mountain sect, wouldn't he be ridiculed by others if he relied on these things to seize a girl's chastity? Qing Zhongfan was not stupid. Of course, he would not leave such an excuse for others to gossip about him. Why-ya-ya-ya-ya. Ma Baizhi swung his hand fiercely and threw Qing Zhongfan aside. He was flustered and exasperated as he roared with bloodshot eyes, Xiaoqin, I'm going to tear you into pieces. Ma Baizhi was already mad at this time. He no longer cared about the orders from his superiors and directly flew towards the Qing family's courtyard at the fastest speed possible. Recently, he had already suffered a lot of resentment from Xiaoqin. But for the Order of Awakening Heavenly Sect, he thought that it would be fine if he just tolerated it. In the end, he did not expect that even his son's life would be lost in Xiaoqin's hands. Originally, Ma Baizhi only planned to play some tricks in the crusade meeting to embarrass Xiaoqin so that he could vent his anger. But now he decided to kill him directly. Only then could he appease the pain of losing his son and the hatred in his heart. Xiaoqin, get out here. In just a few breaths, Ma Baizhi was already standing in the Qing family's courtyard. His eyes were bloodshot as he roared towards the room in front of him. Xiaoqin yawned and walked out of the room sleepily. He picked his ears and said impatiently, Ma Baizhi, did you take the wrong medicine? Why are you shouting in the courtyard in the middle of the night? Even if you can't disturb me, it's not good to disturb the flower, the campus belle. After a while, Qing Minjing also came out. She first bowed to Ma Baizhi and then explained, Sect leader Ma, you can't blame Xiaoqin for Ma Longting's death. You wanted to molest me first. Xiaoqin just blocked it for me. Although Qing Minjing knew that Xiaoqin's strength was higher than Ma Baizhi's, they were still in the territory of the Kuei Mountain sect after all. They could not be too arrogant. I don't care. Anyway, Xiaoqin killed my son, so I want him to pay with his life. Ma Baizhi's eyes were bloodshot at this time. He could not listen to any reason. He waved his hand and directly circulated the devil qi in his body, and suddenly attacked Xiaoqin's chest. Go to hell, Xiaoqin. I say, you really overestimate yourself. You only have the cultivation of half-step devil king, and you dare to challenge me? Xiaoqin sneered and displayed the strength of the peak of devil king level 2. When he was about to attack, he suddenly heard Elder Heaven Ancestor yelling in his mind, Xiaoqin, get out of the way. You are no match for him. Xiaoqin was stunned. Suddenly he felt an overwhelming pressure surging towards him. He looked up in disbelief and suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. Ma Baizhi was actually in the peak of Devil King level 10. In the blink of an eye, Ma Baizhi was already in front of him. Xiaoqin subconsciously wanted to dodge, but he stopped in his tracks. Missy was standing behind him. If he dodged, she would be the one to be attacked. She only had the strength of a devil master. If she faced Ma Baizhi, she would most likely die. With that thought in mind, Xiaoqin circulated all of his strength and braced himself to take a step forward. He also launched a palm strike at Ma Wuxia. Bang! A loud noise was heard. Their palms collided fiercely. Xiaoqun was pushed back a few steps and spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was pale and he was obviously seriously injured. Ma Baijia's body only swayed a little, but his expression was normal. Ah! Ignorant child, you are only at the peak of Devil King level 2. How dare you challenge me in front of me? Ma Baizhi was a little puzzled. He attacked with all his strength. Logically speaking, Xiaoqun should have died directly. How could he not die? Chapter 862. However, he couldn't care less. Once again he exerted all his strength and pushed his palm forward. Brat, be buried with my son. This day next year will be the day of your death. Cough cough. Old man, say that after you hurt me. Xiaoqun didn't continue the fight. Instead, he quickly retreated and took out his flying sword. He grabbed Qing Menjing's hand and jumped on it. Then he escaped from the Kuei Mountain sect and sped towards Songning City. What? Ma Minqi watched as his palm strike missed. He was rather surprised. Xiaoqun actually had such an arcane treasure? Ma Wuxia snorted coldly and stared at Xiaoqun's rapidly disappearing silhouette. He roared into the sky, Xiaoqun. No matter where you run to, I'll kill you and avenge my son. Before he finished speaking, he quickly chased in the direction that Xiaoqun had left in. However, although Ma Wuxia was a Demon King level 10 perfection cultivator, he couldn't run as fast as the flying sword. After chasing for a while, he realized that the distance between him and Xiaoqun was getting further and further. So he stopped and returned to the Kuei Mountain sect angrily. Since he couldn't catch up, Ma Wuxia changed his method. Once he returned to the sect, he immediately issued a boundless kill order and sent out all the disciples. He ordered them to search in the direction where Xiaoqun escaped and to report back immediately if they found any clues. Meanwhile, Ma Wuxia stayed in the sect, waiting for news at any time. He also started to organize Ma Longting's funeral. Since Xiaoqun and the Kuei Mountain sect had officially broken off, and Ma Wuxia issued a kill order, the subjugation meeting naturally came to an end. The news soon reached Awakening sect. What surprised Ma Wuxia was that Awakening sect didn't reprimand him severely. Instead, they just watched quietly as if they didn't know about it at all. Ma Wuxia thought about it and concluded that the higher-ups must have felt sorry for him after learning about his situation. That was why they allowed him to avenge their son. In reality, Sidu Qitian didn't care about the dragonflies or butterflies. He just wanted to watch the show. He wanted to know if the people behind Xiaoqun would jump out to help if he was being chased by the great perfection of the Demon King level 10. After that, Sidu Qitian quickly called for a sect meeting. He was worried that if something like this happened, the other sects in the martial arts world would use Ma Daobao's strength as an excuse to pick a fight with Awakening Heaven sect. Therefore, he had to immediately discuss the countermeasures for the future. During the meeting, Sidu Qitian first vented his anger and reprimanded Ma Wuxia for not caring about the big picture and for being a fool. Even if he wanted to take revenge for his son, he should have done it slowly instead of revealing his strength so easily, which caused the pressure on Awakening Heaven sect and the martial arts world to increase greatly. After all, Ma Wuxia was a chess piece that Awakening Heaven sect had set up in the martial arts world. Sidu Qitian let him enter the Quishan sect and become the sect master in order to better control the martial arts world and provide Awakening Heaven sect with a steady stream of funds and outstanding disciples so that Awakening Heaven sect could develop more steadily. Now that Ma Wuxia had accidentally revealed his strength, he wouldn't be able to stay in the martial arts world for too long. According to the rules, Sidu Qitian had to summon him back to Awakening Heaven sect sooner or later. Otherwise, the other sects in the martial arts world would definitely not let it go. Originally, Ma Wuxia should have returned to the martial arts world immediately, but Sidu Qitian still wanted to see the situation after Xiaoqun was chased. Moreover, Ma Wuxia definitely wouldn't be willing to let go of the hatred of his son and come back. Therefore, after the discussion in the sect meeting, Sidu Qitian conveyed the latest order to Ma Wuxia. Let him be more careful when doing things and don't leave any clues for other sects to find out. Only then could he be tormented for a while. He also promised Ma Wuxia that he would summon him back after everything was settled. After everything was settled, Sidu Qitian found Elder's son and secretly assigned him a task. Little Xing, how's your recovery? The sect master has a new mission for you. Elder's son received Sidu Qitian's order and immediately called Little Chick Xing. Elder's son, my strength has basically recovered. Little Xing said calmly on the other end of the phone. Your task this time is to go to the Quishan sect and secretly monitor Ma Wuxia's every move. See how he will deal with Xiaoqun. If he is about to make a move on Xiaoqun, you will help him secretly, understand? Elder Sun instructed solemnly. I remember that Ma Wuxia should be at the Demon King level 10 great perfection, right? His strength should be more than enough to deal with Xiaoqin. There's no need for me to help, right? Little Xing was very puzzled. She thought to herself, could it be that Xiaoqian's strength has increased again? Even Ma Wuxia is helpless against him? Then even if I go, I won't be of much help. It seems like you don't understand. The purpose of this task is for you to protect Xiaoqin. You can't let Ma Wuxia kill him. If necessary, you'd better help him. Otherwise, if Xiaoqin really dies, how are we going to lure those people out? Elder Sun said with a tone of reproach. Oh, I see. I understand. I'll go now. Little Xing finally understood and quickly agreed. However, she was a little depressed. Not only could she not teach this lecher a lesson, she also had to protect him. Really? At this moment, Xiaoqin and Cheng Menjing were still standing on the fast-flying sword. Xiaoqin, where are we going? Cheng Menjing helped Xiaoqin stand on the flying sword. Her voice was a little shaky. She wasn't frightened by the horse's zigzagging, but she doubted whether the narrow sword body could bear the weight of two people. She felt shaky and unsteady as she flew. She looked down and saw the scenery moving at high speed, which made her a little nervous. Cough, cough, cough. Xiaoqin covered his mouth with his left hand and coughed a few times. His right hand grabbed Cheng Menjing's arm tightly. He said in a deep voice, Missy, let's go back to the villa by the Lead Hua River first. Should be safe there. Looking down at his left palm, Xiaoqin saw a patch of red. He shook his head and smiled bitterly. It seemed that he was seriously injured this time. He didn't expect Ma Wuxia to hide his strength. If he knew that Ma Wuxia was at the peak of the Demon King level 10, he would have taken Missy and run away. Are your injuries serious? Why don't we go down first? I feel that the flying sword can't hold on any longer. Cheng Menjing could feel that Xiaoqin was very weak. She couldn't help but say worriedly. The flying sword under her feet seemed to be getting slower and slower. It seemed like it was going to stop soon. I'm fine. Don't worry. We'll be there soon. Xiaoqin tried to comfort her. He also felt that the energy in his body was weakening. He had to shout in the spiritual space again, Elder Heaven Ancestor, are you there? I can't hold on any longer. Can you help me control the flying sword for a while? When he escaped from the Kuei Mountain sect, Xiaoqin knew that his injuries were more serious. He wanted to ask Elder Heaven Ancestor to come out and help him control the flying sword. However, he didn't know why there was no response even after he called him several times. Now, he could only try to call him again without holding out any hope. Master. A weak voice suddenly came from the spiritual space. Oh, Nethery. Just now, Senior Heaven Ancestor and I, an old demon fire wolf joined hands, to help you block a palm strike. It consumed a lot of divine sense and mental force. They have already entered a dormant state. It turned out that the reason why Xiaoqin didn't die from Ma Deiqi's full-force palm strike was because Elder Heaven Ancestor, Old Demon Fire Wolf, and Flame of the Underworld had helped him block most of the attack. Since Elder Heaven Ancestor and Old Demon Fire Wolf were more proficient in defense, they shared most of the damage. After the attack, they directly entered a dormant state. Flame of the Underworld, on the other hand, wasn't good at absorbing damage, so it barely had some mental force left. What? How are they? Are they okay? Xiaoqian's body swayed. He was very shocked. No wonder Elder Heaven Ancestor didn't reply. It turned out that he had already entered a dormant state. No, they're fine. They're just tired. After resting for a while, they'll be fine, Flame of the Underworld answered with great difficulty. After pondering for a while, Xiaoqin said helplessly, well, it seems that I have to stop using the flying sword. Otherwise, with my current primordial chi, I can't fly to the villa at all. If I accidentally fall from the sky again, it'll be really troublesome. Master, you don't have to stop. I can use mental force to send you back, but I'll also exhaust my mental force and enter a dormant state. At that time, you can only rely on yourself. Flame of the Underworld's voice became lower and lower, and finally there was no sound. Xiaoqin was shocked. He was about to open his mouth to stop it, but the flying sword under his feet suddenly trembled, as if it had regained its vitality. It sped up and flew in the direction of Songning Villa. An hour later, the flying sword successfully stopped at Songning's villa. Xiaoqin put away the flying sword and dragged his exhausted steps as he opened the door and walked in. Cheng Menjing looked around the periphery of the villa, and then followed behind Xiaoqin. Thinking back to the good time they had spent in the villa, the young miss could not help but feel emotional. She didn't expect that after so many days she and Xiao Chen would be the first to return here. Xiao Chen, something went behind the sofa. As soon as she stepped into the hall, Qing Minjing saw a black shadow flashing not far away at a very fast speed. She was shocked and exclaimed, "No way? Are you sure you're not mistaken? No one has lived in the villa for so long. Even if there are mice, they should have starved to death." Xiao Chen said disapprovingly. He was about to reach out to turn on the light, but he suddenly felt something approaching the position where he was standing at a very fast speed. Woof! Just as Xiao Chen's hand turned on the light, that thing let out a loud roar and pounced on him. Then, it froze for a moment before suddenly wagging its tail. Xiao Chen and Qing Minjing took a closer look. The thing was a big black dog. Chapter 863. This is the universe's super invincible dog. Why is it still living in the villa? And it looks so healthy. Could it be that there are kind-hearted people feeding it? Qing Minjing asked, puzzled. She and Xiao Chen had been gone for so long, and that Yi Xiaoya had long returned to the Devil Star sect, so how did this dog survive? Oh, I forgot to tell you, invincible dog is really invincible now. Don't be fooled by its small size, it's actually a level 1 Devil Master. Damn. It actually rose to the peak of level 10 Devil Master. Xiao Chen was originally carrying the universe's super invincible dog down, but as he spoke, he took a closer look and couldn't help but curse. He stared at invincible dog in disbelief. Wasn't this little thing leveling up too fast? Compared to him, it wasn't much weaker. What did you say? Qing Minjing got a huge shock and hurriedly took a close look at the unrivaled dog. Discovering that what Xiao Chen said was indeed right, her entire face immediately darkened and she said gloomily, Its cultivation is even higher than mine. This lady can't even compare to a stray dog. What's the point of cultivating? Qing Minjing really felt a deep sense of defeat. She was at least able to cultivate in a place like the Kuei Mountain sect, where the heaven and earth spiritual qi was abundant, and she also consumed a lot of expensive medicinal herbs to be able to advance to level 1 Devil Master in such a short period of time. She originally thought that although her aptitude wasn't too outstanding, it wouldn't be too bad either. In the end, she couldn't even compare to Xiao Chen, this trash, and in the end she wasn't even as strong as a stray dog. There was no justice in this world. Oh, Missy, don't be too sad. Invincible dog being able to reach this realm is actually a special case. It secretly ate the medicinal dregs left behind by Yi Xiaoya and I, and then somehow became a cultivator dog. Xiao Chen saw that Qing Minjing was about to lose hope and quickly explained. Medicinal dregs? Is it the kind you gave Grandpa Jean to eat? Do you have any leftover medicinal dregs? Hurry up and hand it over. Give as much as you have. I want to try some too, maybe I can also level up. If I'm not careful, I'll be able to reach level 10 Perfect Devil King. Qing Minjing's eyes lit up as she eagerly pulled Xiao Chen. This series of recent encounters made the Missy strongly realize for the first time how important it was to improve her own strength. Don't even think about it. Those medicinal dregs can only be used for healing. They cannot increase a cultivator's level, otherwise I would have given them to you long ago. Invincible dog is probably because of physique, it is, and it is. Xiao Chen shrugged his shoulders helplessly. Those medicinal dregs weren't anything rare. If he could use them, he wouldn't mind letting the eldest misuse them. Sigh, forget it. I'll just cultivate in peace. When Qing Minjing heard this, she shook her head in disappointment. She had thought that she could increase her strength quickly and help Xiao Chen when she encountered danger. However, it seemed that it was impossible now. She could only cultivate steadily and steadily. Alright, it's very late now, you should rest early. I don't think this villa is very safe. There are also the Xiao family and the Qing family. I guess the Quishan sect will target us sooner or later. Let's move to another place tomorrow. As Xiao Chen spoke to Qing Minjing, he walked back and forth in the villa, using his remaining vitality to set up a few surveillance arrays. Qing Minjing had experienced so many things today and was really tired. She didn't say much and turned back to her room. The invincible dog followed Xiao Chen's side eagerly. Xiao Chen finished setting up the magic circle, then squatted down and said to Invincible Dog, "Invincible Dog, I'm injured and Miss isn't strong enough. We're here to seek refuge, so we need your help." The invincible dog looked at Xiao Chen and barked, as if it could completely understand what he was saying. "While I'm healing, look after the house. Don't let any strangers in. If anyone tries to sneak in, let me know immediately. Can you do that?" Xiao Chen knew what Invincible Dog was capable of, so he went straight to the point. Invincible dog barked again, ran to the door of the villa and lay down. Then it turned to look at Xiaoqin. I'm going back to heal first. When things are over, I'll boil some herbal dregs for you. Xiaoqin nodded happily, then turned back to his room. Xiaoqin took a shower first, then sat down cross-legged to check his internal injuries. After a while, Xiaoqin was depressed to find that although his injuries weren't too serious and could be healed with vitality, there seemed to be some demonic qi left in his body, blocking his dantian. It was difficult to get rid of it in a short time. In this way it was difficult for him to fully exert his strength. If he were to fight Ma Wuxia, he basically had no chance of winning. The situation was really not optimistic. Xiaoqin sighed. It seemed that he could only use vitality to heal his internal injuries first, then think of a way to slowly refine this demonic qi. Hopefully, there wouldn't be too strong enemies looking for trouble during this period of recovery. The next morning, while Xiaoqin was still healing himself, his phone, which was at the side, suddenly rang. Xiaoqin opened his eyes, picked up the phone, and saw that it was Xia Zhili. He quickly pressed the answer button. Xiaoqin, I heard that you killed Ma Longfly from the Quishan sect last night? Where are you now? What's going on? Before Xiaoqin could speak, Xia Zhili on the other end of the phone asked impatiently, his tone very anxious. Well, it's like this. Xiaoqin nodded, briefly explained what happened, then told Xia Zhili that he was now back in Songning City. Sai, it's not that I want to criticize you, but you're really too impulsive. Xia Zhili said with a tone of reproach. Ma Wuxia has now issued an endless kill order and sent out most of the Quishan sect's disciples. They're doing their best to hunt you down. I understand. Xiaoqin had already expected this situation. Judging from Ma Wuxia's crazy expression last night, he would definitely not let him go so easily. Bureau Chief Ling has already gone to help you. He asked me to tell you that your bank card is being monitored by the Quishan sect. Don't use the money in the card for now. Xia Zhili instructed. What? The Quishan sect is so powerful? They can even monitor my bank card? Isn't this a matter of the secular world? Even the Supernatural Investigation Bureau can't do anything to them? The sect is way too powerful. Xiaoqin was really shocked this time. He thought that with the Supernatural Investigation Bureau backing him up, the Quishan sect should be more restrained in the secular world. He did not expect it to become so troublesome. Sai, the Quishan sect is also connected to the secular world. They also have considerable strength and informants in the secular world. The bank that you deposited your money in is coincidentally controlled by the Quishan sect, so, you know. Xia Zhili's tone was also very helpless. Although he was the deputy bureau chief of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau, which sounded very powerful, there was nothing he could do against the Quishan sect. What the F***ck? Xiaoqin was depressed. He suddenly thought of a serious matter. Oh yes, if I don't touch the money, Ma Wuxia shouldn't have the right to transfer all my money, right? If that's the case, I'll be at a huge loss. He had billions of savings in the bank. Ma Wuxia, that bastard, might just take advantage of it. At the thought of this, Xiaoqin was speechless. That's definitely impossible unless he doesn't want to open his bank anymore. However, as long as you touch the funds, whether it's a transfer or a withdrawal, Ma Wuxia will find out. So you better be careful. Don't use the money in your card for now. If you need money, I can give you some first. Xia Zhili was also helpless in this matter, so he could only provide some financial help. That's not necessary. I still have some money with me. It should be enough. Although the money in the bank could not be used, Xiaoqin did not need to borrow Xia Zhili's money. At most, he could go back to his old business and sell breakfast again. Alright, call me if you have any difficulties. Xia Zhili did not force him. Before he hung up, he thought of something and warned him again. Oh yes, get a new phone number as soon as possible. Don't use this old number for the time being. Who knows when someone will locate it. Okay, I got it. Xiaoqin nodded and chatted with Xia Zhili for a while before hanging up. Looking at the time, it was already past 8 o'clock. Xiaoqin put down the phone and ran out to buy breakfast. The fridge in the villa was already empty. Otherwise, he would have made something for the Missy himself. After buying breakfast, Xiaoqin added some vitality to the breakfast as usual. Then he went upstairs to wake the Missy up. When he stood at the door of the Missy's room, Xiaoqin was slightly stunned. This feeling was too familiar. It was as if he had returned to the days when he was a servant. Not long after, Qing Minjing walked out of the room yawning. Looking at the dark circles under her eyes, it was obvious that she did not sleep well. However, the Missy was considered a cultivator now, so it was not a big problem for her to sleep less. Therefore she did not lose her temper at Xiaoqin. While eating breakfast, Xiao Chen told the Missy about his bank card being targeted by the Quishan sect. Cheng Minjing was also depressed after hearing it. This villa is probably not very safe. We may be monitored at any time. After breakfast, let's leave here, in case we are suddenly attacked. Xiao Chen said while stuffing breakfast into his mouth. That's good, but then, where are we going to live? Cheng Minjing's face was a little gloomy. Since the Cheng family was grounded by the Quishan sect, the Cheng family had a hard time. She did not have much money at hand. Even if she wanted to rent a house, it was not practical. I've made up my mind. We'll move to the place where Tang Tang used to live and settle down. I'll go to the morning market to sell fried dough sticks for a while to earn some living expenses. After a while we'll make other plans. Xiao Chen said the countermeasures he had thought about. Although he could go back to the Xiao family, he thought it was better not to expose himself after hearing what Xia Zhili said. Chapter 864. Cheng Minjing didn't object. She knew that she couldn't ask her family for help now. Otherwise they were likely to be involved and it would be a big problem. After breakfast they packed up. Cheng Minjing thought for a while and decided to take Invincible Dog with her. His strength was very high now. If there was any danger it might be able to help. When she returned to the Tang family she bought the place where she used to live. After all, it had left her and Xiao Chen a lot of good memories. So no one lived there and it had been vacant. Xiao Chen opened the door with his primordial qi and walked in. How long has it been since someone lived here? And there is only one room and one bathroom. How can two of us live here? Cheng Minjing followed Xiao Chen and looked around. She couldn't help but complain in a low voice. Looking at the corridor that was covered in cobwebs, as well as the dusty desk and bed, the young lady was about to collapse. On the way here, Cheng Minjing saw the dilapidated outer wall of the community, and her heart was faintly worried. Originally, she secretly prayed that this was a special period, and she couldn't ask for too much. As long as the place could be a little cleaner and brighter, it would be enough. She didn't expect the real situation to be so terrible. Oh, it's not that bad, is it? But it's a little dirty. It's okay. Wait a minute. I'll clean it up. Xiao Chen scratched his head and took the initiative to pick up the broom. He began to clean the room inside and outside. Cheng Minjing stood at the side and watched for a while. When she saw Xiao Chen busy himself, she felt a little apologetic. She mentally prepared herself for a long time and finally plucked up the courage to put on the rubber gloves and apron from the villa. Then she picked up a rag and a bucket and began to help Xiao Chen clean. After working for about half an hour, the two of them finally cleaned the whole house. Cheng Minjing looked at the clean house and admired the results of her labor. She nodded with satisfaction. In the past, when she was at home, she basically didn't do housework. Now that she finally had the chance to do it, her heart was immediately filled with a sense of accomplishment. Aya, eldest miss, your face is covered in dust, you look like a big tabby cat. Stand there and don't move. I'll help you wipe it. Xiao Chen said as he took out a wet tissue and carefully wiped the stains on Cheng Minjing's face. Oh, thank you. Cheng Minjing closed her eyes in embarrassment and let the wet tissue gently wipe her cheeks. A strange sense of happiness suddenly welled up in her heart. She felt that she and Xiao Chen were like a loving couple. What am I thinking? Cheng Minjing's heart skipped a beat and she quickly held her breath, fearing that Xiao Chen would notice something wrong. All right, it's all cleaned up. Xiao Chen threw the wet tissue into the wastepaper basket, then took out the mat he brought from the villa and laid it on the narrow corridor. What are you doing? Cheng Minjing, who had just enjoyed the feeling of happiness, asked in astonishment. Xiao Chen pointed to the room and said, You sleep in my room from now on and I'll sleep here. No way. It's so narrow that I can't even turn over. How can I sleep here? You'd better sleep on the floor in the room. It's more comfortable than squeezing in the corridor. Cheng Minjing didn't expect that Xiao Chen would take the initiative to sleep on the floor in the corridor. She was a little bit reluctant and said hesitantly, That's not good, is it? You're the eldest miss, of course you should sleep in the big room. I'm just a servant. How can I sleep in the same room with you? People will think that I'm taking advantage of you. Xiao Chen smiled and shook his head. Originally, Cheng Minjing was a little hesitant, but when she heard what Xiao Chen said, she suddenly became stubborn. She put her hands on her waist and said, If I ask you to sleep, you should sleep. You're a man, don't be so wishy-washy. What servant? I'm your fiancé. Cheng Minjing stared at Xiao Chen with hatred. She didn't know if this guy did it on purpose. He didn't sleep in the room but in the corridor. You want me to sleep with you? Xiao Chen pretended to be ignorant and teased. How dare you? Believe it or not, I'll kick you into the sky. Just like the horse dragonfly. Cheng Minjing's face immediately turned red. She rolled her eyes at Xiao Qin in annoyance and said while gritting her teeth. She even raised her leg as if to show off. I'm just kidding. Why did you take it seriously? Xiao Qin laughed. He picked up the mat again and took it to the room to lay it. Then he walked out with the basket. As he walked he said, Minjing, I'm going to buy some daily necessities and things for tomorrow's stall. Then I'll buy some vegetables and prepare for tonight's dinner. You stay at home and play with Invincible Dog. Wait for me. I'm going too. There's nothing here. I'll be bored to death if I just stay here. Cheng Minjing quickly followed. She wanted to watch a few episodes of Schoolbell's Bodyguard on iQIYI, but this broken place didn't even have Wi-Fi. Invincible Dog, who was originally sleeping in the corner, also barked and ran over. It followed closely behind them. It seemed that it didn't want to stay at home. Well then let's go together. Xiao Qin smiled bitterly and shook his head. It seemed that after he made money from selling breakfast, the first thing he needed to do was to install Wi-Fi. Now that the price of broadband had dropped and increased, he could still afford it. 2 people and a dog strolled to the vicinity of the morning market. They walked into the market and began to stroll. They looked like a young couple, a perfect match which attracted many envious gazes. This was the first time Miss Cheng went to the market in her life. As she walked, she looked around. No matter what she saw, she felt that everything was very fresh. Xiao Qin had been here many times, so he was already familiar with the place. He first bought some vegetables and meat for dinner. Then he bought a bag of flour and a bag of soybeans for tomorrow's breakfast. Finally, he bought some daily necessities. Feeling that he had bought almost everything, Xiao Qin carried a few big bags and left the market with Cheng Minjing and Invincible Dog. The shopping process was very smooth, but what surprised Xiao Qin was that although it was the young mistress's first time shopping in the market, she was very experienced in haggling, as if it was a natural skill she had. Sometimes, just for the price of a few cents, she would argue until the other party had no choice but to compromise. How is it? I'm good, right? I helped you save a few yuan this time. Cheng Minjing was also carrying 2 bags of fruits in her hands. She looked very proud. I didn't expect to bargain with those hawkers. It seems that it is quite interesting. It seems that I can often come here to practice in the future. I say, young miss, although we really don't have much money now, you don't have to fight with others for a few cents, right? Those vegetable hawkers are actually not having it easy. We don't lack that little money. Xiao Qin smiled helplessly. Recalling the scene of Cheng Minjing arguing with the hawker, he still felt that it was a little unbelievable. Who would have thought that the young miss of Songning's first aristocratic family would actually bargain with a vegetable hawker in the market for a small profit? No one would believe it if it was set out. Cheng Minjing didn't wait for the praise, but she heard a criticism instead. She was suddenly furious. She stared at Xiao Qin and said angrily, Wow, Xiao Qin, when you were down and out, in order to buy a few packets of instant noodles, you had to bargain with others. In the end, you only saved 30 cents after dawdling for an hour. Now you are actually criticizing me? Well, it seems that our bargaining skills are not good. Enemies really don't meet each other. Xiao Qin shook his head and teased. He took one of the bags of fruits from the young mistress' hands and suddenly made a turn. He did not walk into the neighborhood that the 2 of them lived in. Instead, he walked toward a grocery store not far away. Tiske, who is your enemy? Don't think so highly of yourself. Cheng Minjing pouted. She was about to belittle Xiao Qin a few more words when she suddenly saw him walking to the grocery store. She thought that Xiao Qin was going to buy something again, so she quickly chased after him and asked, What else do you want to buy? We've spent a lot of money today. Xiao Qin didn't have time to explain to Cheng Minjing. He directly greeted the old lady sitting outside the grocery store. Auntie, do you still remember me? The old lady, who had been basking in the sun, raised her head and looked at Xiao Qin carefully. She nodded and said, Yes, I do. Aren't you my boyfriend? Xiao Qin put the fruits on the table and said with a smile, Thank you for looking after our tricycle and equipment for me and Tang Tang. These fruits are for you to eat. Please like them. After Tang Tang left, the old lady of the grocery store kept her tricycle and equipment very well. In order to prevent them from getting wet in the rain, she specially covered them with a plastic sheet. Xiao Qin had seen it just now with his sharp eyes. The old lady waved her hand and said with a little embarrassment, Hey, it's good enough that you remember to visit me. Why did you spend money to buy fruits? Don't you know how sorry I am? Haha, it's my pleasure. I've troubled you for so long. It's a little gift from me and Tang Tang. Xiao Chen replied with a smile. In fact, Xiao Chen originally wanted to give the old lady a sum of money so that she could enjoy her leisure life. She didn't have to work from dawn to dusk to open the store. But considering that he didn't have much money on hand, he had to put it aside for the time being. He would give it to her when he made money in the future. Qing Minjing stood beside him for a while. Only then did she understand Xiao Chen's intention. Although she was very satisfied with Xiao Chen's humble and polite attitude toward the old lady, when she heard Tang Tang's boyfriend, she got angry again. Since even the old lady said so, it meant that these two people had been secretly having sex for a long time. This Xiao Chen obviously didn't take me, his fiancée, seriously. Qing Minjing, who was in a bad mood, glared at Xiao Chen and snorted coldly from her nostrils. Chapter 865. Oh, you are Tang Tang? The old woman heard the voice and turned around. But when she saw Qing Minjing's appearance, she was stunned and asked doubtfully. I'm not. Qing Minjing answered grumpily. Are your eyes blind? Tang Tang was so fat. How could I be her? I'm the campus belle. The old woman seemed to hear Qing Minjing's murmur in her heart. She looked at her carefully and shook her head. No. Even if Tang Tang lost weight, she's still better looking than you. Young man, what's going on? I think you and Tang Tang are a good match. How could you fall in love with someone else? Qing Minjing was so angry that she almost fainted. She wanted to say something to refute, but she didn't know how to say it. She couldn't lose her temper to an old woman, could she? So she could only stand there and sulk. Oh, Auntie, I'm here to tell you that my friend wants to do some small business in this morning market. He needs to borrow Tang Tang's tricycle and equipment. So please take care of him in the future. Xiao Chen was also a little embarrassed, so he changed the topic and said his purpose of coming here. He didn't want to say too much to the old woman. After all, the old woman was just an ordinary person in the secular world. Even if he wanted to explain Tang Tang's experience, it would take a long time. Okay, I see. The old woman changed her previous warm attitude and responded indifferently. Obviously, she was not very satisfied with Xiao Chen's abandonment of Tang Tang, and her face didn't look very good. Thank you very much. I'm leaving now. Bye, Auntie. Xiao Chen said goodbye with a bitter smile. He could also see that the old woman didn't like him, but he couldn't deal with it properly. He had to leave with Qing Minjing. Alas, young people nowadays forget their roots when they have a little money in their pockets. I must post this on Weibo and denounce him. The old woman looked at Xiao Chen's back, shook her head and sighed. Then she took out the ancient smartphone and pressed it. If Xiao Chen knew about this, he would probably vomit blood, right? When they got home, it was already night time. Xiao Chen went straight to the kitchen and made a few dishes for dinner with the things he bought today. Although the dishes were still delicious, Qing Minjing was a little unhappy. It was obvious that she was still bothered by the previous incident. Damn it. How dare she say that I'm not as beautiful as Tang Tang? That old lady is so blind. Xiao Chen, why are you looking for her when you have nothing better to do? Qing Minjing pouted and kept poking at the rice in her bowl with her chopsticks as she complained unhappily. I have to borrow something. I can't possibly use my original appearance to set up a stall tomorrow, right? Wouldn't that be waiting to be caught? If I change my appearance and the old lady doesn't recognize me, wouldn't it be troublesome if she refuses to lend me those things? Xiao Chen explained helplessly. Originally, he just wanted to explain to the old lady, but he didn't expect the old lady to be so outspoken, resulting in such an awkward situation. Tell me honestly, between me and Tang Tang, who is prettier? Qing Minjing knew the reason behind Xiao Chen's action, but she still persisted in her questions. Qing Minjing knew the reason behind Xiao Chen's actions. Well, to be honest, both of you are very beautiful. Miss, your temperament is better and Tang Tang's figure is better. All in all, you each have your own merits. Xiao Chen thought for a moment and replied solemnly. He did not want to be too sure in case he said too much and made more mistakes. Well, that's more like it. Qing Minjing finally nodded in satisfaction. In fact, she knew that her breasts were not as big as Jean Bei's and Tang Tang's, but at least her temperament was better than theirs. That was enough. After dinner, Xiao Chen cleaned up the tableware and began to make the materials for tomorrow. Qing Minjing was very bored. She wanted to help Xiao Chen, but after trying a few times, she still could not figure out the way. In a fit of anger, she directly returned to her room and played with the invincible dog. It was a quiet night. At 4 o'clock in the morning the next day, Xiao Chen got up on time. He turned his face into someone else's and prepared to sell breakfast. Hearing the noise, Cheng Minjing woke up too. She struggled to get out of bed tiredly. Xiaochen, wait a minute. I'm going to sell breakfast with you too. The young lady particularly wanted to help Xiaochen. She could not let him do all the work alone. After all, she was a major reason why the two of them ended up like this. That's unnecessary. Selling breakfast is too exhausting. Besides, there is a lot of smoke when I fry the deep-fried dough sticks. It won't be good if your eyes get blinded. I can take care of it myself. Just sleep a little longer. I'll come back and make breakfast for you after I'm done. Xiaochen waved his hand and motioned Cheng Minjing to go back to sleep. He did not want the young lady to suffer with him. You don't have to worry about that. Anyway, I can do what Tang Tang can do. I'm not worse than her. Cheng Minjing said stubbornly. She was determined to go with Xiaochen. She was really stimulated by what the old auntie said yesterday. She wanted to do something with all her might. You can do what Tang Tang can do? She can help me. You don't seem to. Can you? Xiaochen could not help whispering. What did you say? Cheng Minjing widened her eyes and looked at Xiaochen incredulously. If it were someone else, she would have slapped him. Nothing much, I just said that you look good today. Xiaochen rubbed his nose a little awkwardly, he almost let it slip. Humph. No wonder you like her so much. It turns out that she seduces you like this every day. She's really, really shameless. Cheng Minjing rolled her eyes and muttered. Don't blame Tang Tang wrongly. That was a long time ago, okay? We were really buddies before. Xiaochen was a little anxious to defend himself, but he felt a little helpless. Anyway, Tang Tang did hint to him several times at that time, but he didn't care at that time. Humph, you never speak the truth. Who would believe you? Cheng Minjing saw Xiaochen was still speaking for Tang Tang. She said angrily. Are you still going to learn from Tang Tang? Xiaochen did not want to dwell on this matter, so he interrupted with a smile. I only learn from her good points. I don't learn from her bad points. I'm going to sell breakfast, and all the money I earn will be at my disposal. Do you hear me? Cheng Minjing said aggressively with her hands on her waist. In fact, Tang Tang's time is also good. Xiaochen whispered again. But when he saw Cheng Minjing's face sank, he quickly said, well, if you really want to go, I have to put on makeup for you. Otherwise, if you go out like this, I'm afraid you will be exposed in a few days. Cheng Minjing had no opinion on this point. Therefore, Xiaochen took some of the cosmetics used by young mistresses and made her look like a village girl in no time. He even specially picked a simpler set of clothes for her to wear. After everything was done, the two of them picked up the things they had prepared yesterday and went out to the morning market street. When they arrived at the grocery store, Xiaochen put the things away and let Cheng Minjing sit in the back. Then he skillfully rode on the tricycle to the stall on the morning street. Because he and Tang Tang's stall had been given to Kerlin's family to sell beef plate noodles, Xiaochen did not intend to take it back. So he simply drove directly to the original location of the Lin's stall. Although the original stall of Kerlin's family was located at the back and the location was not very good, Xiaochen believed that with his craftsmanship, he could soon make the business prosperous again. After all, the previous prosperity was there. The ability of a cultivator was not just a bluff. Cheng Minjing, on the other hand, carefully sat behind the tricycle. As she watched Xiaochen leisurely ride the tricycle, she couldn't help but sigh in her heart. Regardless of whether it was a high-end sports car worth a few million, or an economical car worth a few $100,000, she had ridden on almost all of them. However, she never expected that she would be reduced to sitting behind a broken tricycle like this. He recalled a joke that he had seen on the internet before. It said that one would rather cry in a BMW than laugh behind a bicycle. But now that he was really sitting behind a bicycle, he felt that he couldn't laugh at all. Xiaochen had no idea what the young lady was thinking at this time. He came to the previous stall of the Lin's family with familiarity, then jumped off the tricycle and moved down the oil pan, gas tank and noodles one by one. He put them in the open space, lit a fire and put it aside to preheat. He took out the dough prepared yesterday and skillfully began to knead the dough, kneading it into the shape of fried dough sticks and fried cakes. Xiaochen, I remember that the previous stall of you and Tang Tang was very busy. It didn't seem to be so remote. Did you not come to the morning market street for a long time and remember the location wrong? Cheng Minjing also jumped off the tricycle, rubbed her butt that hurt from sitting, looked around at the few passers-by around and asked with a puzzled face. Oh, the previous stall has already been given to Lin Ker's family to sell beef noodles. This stall now belongs to their family. Because the location isn't too good, there will be fewer people. Xiaochen was focused on kneading the dough, and didn't even raise his head as he replied. What? Kerlin? Qing Minjing suddenly jumped up and said angrily, why give such a good stall to her? I order you to exchange it with her immediately. There are too few passers-by here and the business must be bad. We can't make money. It was no wonder that the young lady was mad. She felt very uncomfortable as long as she heard the name of Kerlin. At that time Xiaoqun left his beautiful fiancée and ran to pursue Kerlin. Now he even gave her the stall. It seemed that there was really a problem between the two in private. How can I do that? The thing has been given out. There is no reason to take it back. Xiaoqun did not agree to Qing Minjing's request. Instead, he carefully put the long fried dough sticks into the pan and said while frying, besides, that stall was given to Kerlin by me. I have no right to ask. Chapter 866. Humph? You're talking nonsense. Why would you give the stall to others for no reason? The way I see it, you must still be thinking about Lin Kur. That's why you don't dare to get her back and even want to push the blame onto Tang Tang. Qing Minjing glanced sideways at Xiaoqun as she made sarcastic remarks. Xiaoqun shook his head and didn't bother to argue with Qing Minjing. Instead, he skillfully threw the fried dough stick into the oil pan. It didn't take long for a golden and well-proportioned fried dough stick to be fried. Seeing that he didn't refute, Qing Minjing was about to say a few more words. Seeing that Xiaoqun simply fried the fried dough stick, she immediately forgot the previous things and said eagerly, Xiaoqun, let me try. You go knead the dough. Miss, you can help me sell things. Let me do the rough work of frying the fried dough stick. Xiaoqun didn't give up his position immediately, but simply refused. He wasn't worried about Qing Minjing's fried dough stick was not good, but he was afraid that the delicate and noble young lady would be scalded by the splashing oil foam. That would be troublesome. Well, stinky Xiaoqun, you look down on me, don't you? Although I haven't fried dough stick before, I may not be worse than you. You see, I'm born to bargain, right? Give me the chopsticks. Seeing that Xiaoqun actually refused her, Qing Minjing simply grabbed the long chopsticks in his hand and fried them in a dignified manner. Well then, be careful, don't get scalded. Seeing this, Xiaoqun had to shake his head helplessly and concentrated on kneading the dough to make the fried dough stick. He also knew the temper of the young lady. As long as she wanted to try something, he basically couldn't pull her back, so he just let her be. Don't worry, I'm a cultivator now. Even if I get scalded a few times, it won't be a big deal and I'm still wearing gloves, right? Qing Minjing waved her hand and said confidently. Then she began to concentrate on turning the fried dough stick and fried cake in the pan. After a while, after making some reserve materials, Xiaoqun turned his head to look at the situation on Qing Minjing's side. But at a glance he was immediately shocked. Some of the youtiao that was fried by the eldest miss and placed outside were thick at one end and thin at the other end. Some were soft and didn't look cooked at all. There were also many that were directly fried until they were charred, making it impossible for people to eat them. They couldn't be eaten at all. As for the fried cakes, they were even more miserable. Some of them were mashed together, some of them were irregularly shaped, and there were even a few pieces of fillings that leaked out. They were lying crookedly on the plate. The scene was simply too horrible to look at. I say, young lady, what kind of breakfast are you selling here? An old man came to the stall with a vegetable basket. Obviously he was passing by and wanted to eat breakfast. But at this time he looked at the food on the stall with some confusion. He rubbed his eyes, thinking that his presbyopia was acting up again. Ah, old man, are you kidding? I'm selling fried dough sticks and fried cakes. How can you not recognize them? Qing Minjing saw that a customer had finally come. She was about to introduce them, but when she heard the old man say that, she was suddenly unhappy. She wiped the sweat on her forehead, turned her head and pointed at the things that she had fried, and then was stunned. No wonder the old man would say that. He couldn't tell what those balls of suspicious objects were. Ahem, I've lived for most of my life and this is the first time I've seen fried dough sticks and fried cakes like this. The old man looked at it for a while, waved his hand and said helplessly, forget it, I'll go eat something else. I don't know what will happen if I eat it. I still want to live a few more years. Old man, wait a minute. Xiaoqun saw that the situation was not good. He helped the old man to the table and then quickly fried a few fried dough sticks. He put a bowl of tofu pudding on the table and said enthusiastically, my shop just opened today. Maybe my girlfriend's cooking is not very good, so the fried is not very good. Please forgive me. Since you are our first customer, this breakfast is on me. I hope you don't mind. Who is your girlfriend? Cheng Minjing was ridiculed by the old man. She was already angry. When she heard Xiaoqin talk to himself and said that she was his girlfriend, she snorted unwillingly and turned her face away. Okay. The old man looked at the fried dough sticks that Xiaoqin fried. They were quite decent, so he was relieved. He sat on the chair and ate. He said while eating, "Young man, your cooking is really good. The fried dough sticks are just right and the taste is also very good. Little girl, you still need to practice your hands a little more. Otherwise, sooner or later, this store of yours will close down because of you." Cheng Minjing was about to explode. "I gave you free food and you still have so much to say? Really?" After the old man finished eating and left, Xiaoqin cleaned up the table and took the chopsticks from Cheng Minjing's hand. He said casually, "Miss, let me do the fried dough sticks. You just need to be responsible for the marketing and sales." Xiaoqin used the chopsticks to put all the food that Cheng Minjing fried into a bag. He planned to eat it as breakfast after closing the stall. When Xiaoqin was about to put away the bag, Invincible Dog, who was squatting on the side, suddenly barked. Its small eyes stared at the bag in Xiaoqin's hand, and then it stuck out its tongue and licked its lips. It looked like it was hungry. I almost forgot about you. Since you are hungry, I will give you something to eat first." Xiaoqin took out 2 pieces of what looked like fried cakes and fried dough sticks from the bag and threw them in front of Invincible Dog. Invincible Dog did not care about the strange shapes of those things. It lowered its head and ate with relish. "Xiaoqin, although the food that I fried doesn't look good, there is no need for you to feed it to a dog. I think you are asking for a beating." Cheng Minjing roared angrily. If it were not for the fact that she had to maintain her ladylike image in public, she would have already kicked him. Since Invincible Dog is hungry, I will give it some first. Invincible Dog is not an ordinary dog, how can it be the same?" Xiaoqin shrugged and said nonchalantly. Before Cheng Minjing could say anything, they heard 2 whimpering sounds under their feet. It turned out that Invincible Dog had already finished eating. At this time, it raised its head and looked at the 2 of them with eager eyes. It kept wagging its tail, looking like it was not full. "Stinky dog. You are not allowed to eat my food anymore. Other dogs can still pick up a purse or a slipper for their owner, but you can't do anything and still eat so much. I really don't know what the point of raising you is." Cheng Minjing angrily slapped Invincible Dog's head and scolded it with a sullen face. "Woo." Invincible Dog seemed to understand the young miss lesson. It lowered its head pitifully. "Sai, you really are forgetful. Wasn't it Invincible Dog who helped you find your bracelet? How can you say that it is useless?" As Xiaoqin spoke, her hands did not stop moving. Very quickly she fried a lot of golden, shiny fried dough sticks and fried cakes. The stall was filled to the brim, and just looking at it made one's appetite increase. "You still have the nerve to say that? Look at it yourself. We have been open for so long and only 1 customer came and it was a free trial. Why are you frying so many fried dough sticks and fried cakes now? What if you can't sell them?" Cheng Minjing did not care about being angry with Invincible Dog and quickly asked anxiously. Seeing that it was getting late, there were more and more people on the morning market street, but no one came to patronize her business. It was really strange. "Oh, don't be too anxious. Someone will come in a while." Xiaoqin did not care and continued to lower her head to busy herself with the work in her hands. Although Cheng Minjing saw it and was anxious in her heart, there was nothing she could do at the moment. How could she advertise for business? She could only stand there stupidly and watch the crowd come and go. Her fingers kept rubbing her clothes and her eyes kept rolling. No one knew what she was thinking. Selling fried dough sticks, soy milk, tofu pudding, fried cakes. That one, don't miss it. After a while, Cheng Minjing finally plucked up her courage and whispered to the crowd. However, her voice was like a mosquito's buzz, and it was quickly drowned in the bustling morning market street. No one heard it at all. "Eldest miss, did you say something just now? I saw you open your mouth, but I didn't hear any sound for a long time. Did you already learn the skill of demonic sound transmission?" Xiaoqin had just finished the work in his hands and smiled as he teased. "Go to hell. I'm trying to advertise for business. Are your ears deaf? If you only work and don't shout, when will you be able to sell so many fried dough sticks?" Cheng Minjing didn't make a sound like a mosquito this time. With a cold face, she said in a loud voice, "You shouted so softly, who can hear you? Look who came to patronize." Xiaoqin smiled and shook his head. If you have the ability, shout." Cheng Minjing was annoyed and depressed. She turned her head away hatefully. "You can't shout like that." Xiaoqin smiled slightly and shouted, Take a look, take a look. The Tang breakfast shop has reopened. Today's opening promotion 20% discount. Don't miss it. Today you can buy first serve, or you will have to wait in line to buy it tomorrow. Xiao Chen's shout quickly attracted the attention of many passers-by, but most people were watching the fun and few people were buying. Many people in the morning market had eaten the youqiao sold by Xiao Chen, so they had a very deep impression of it. However, towards this newly opened stall, as well as the two completely unfamiliar faces, the passers-by only held the attitude of watching a bustling scene. They stood at the side and whispered to each other. No one was willing to be the first to try something new. Why Tang breakfast? Since it is opened by me, of course it should be called Cheng's. Hurry up and change the name. Cheng Minjing frowned and ordered very unhappily. Although their equipment was borrowed from her, after all, she was the boss. How could she use a name that had nothing to do with her? Chapter 867. Oh, that's what we used to call it. It's a long-established brand. If we call it Cheng's, I guess no one will buy it. Xiao Chen explained. But we can't use the name of Tang Tang. Now we're partners. How about, we call it Xiao Ji's? Cheng Minjing held her chin and pondered for a while, then said thoughtfully. Puff. Hearing Cheng Minjing's words, Xiao Chen almost choked. He blushed and choked for a long time before he said, Miss, can't you talk nicely? Just call it Xiao Ji's. Don't use the word bar together. It's easy to misunderstand, okay? What do you mean? Misunderstand what? Cheng Minjing had no idea what Xiao Chen was talking about. She was confused and repeated Xiao Ji's bar several times. Then she realized something was wrong. She couldn't help but spit with a red face. Bah. I know you can't say anything good with your stupid mouth. You're so filthy. Shameless. You said it first. Why are you blaming me? Xiao Chen was speechless. He touched his nose and muttered. I don't care. It's your fault anyway. Also, the name of our store is Cheng's. No more changes. Cheng Minjing put her hands on her hips and said firmly. Stop it. It's called Tang's because the old lady in the grocery store is surnamed Tang. This stall used to be hers. We're just borrowing it. Xiao Chen said. Oh, I see. Okay then. Cheng Minjing didn't say anything. She just didn't want to have anything to do with Tang Tang. If it was the old lady's name, she wouldn't mind. As long as she could control the money earned from selling breakfast, it didn't matter what name it was. The Tang breakfast shop is reopening for business, 20% off for today's opening. Seeing that Cheng Minjing finally didn't object, Xiao Chen hurriedly shouted a few more times. More and more people stopped in the surroundings and people started to gradually approach his stall. Tang's breakfast store? I've never heard of it before. What reloading business? Could it be a scam? I think he must be bragging. The newcomers on this street all know how to brag, but in reality they're probably not that great. I remember there used to be a fried dough stick shop at the end of the morning market. It was delicious, but it moved away. The onlookers looked at Xiao Chen's fried dough sticks and whispered to each other. Although they were close, most of them were just onlookers. No one was willing to take the initiative to buy it, which made Cheng Minjing anxious. At this time, a middle-aged woman squeezed in and murmured thoughtfully, Huh? The Tang Empire? Isn't that the noodle stall in front? But this boss looks unfamiliar. Seems to be someone else? I wonder how he's doing. Don't guess blindly. This stall's noodle is really good. I've personally tasted it just now. It's not worse than the previous noodle stall. You can rest assured and buy it. Outside the crowd, an old voice sounded. Cheng Minjing looked up and saw that it was the old man who had come to taste the food. The basket in his hand that was originally empty was now filled to the brim. It seemed that he had come back from buying groceries and was passing by, so he helped to put in a good word for her. Since this old man said so, then let's buy some to try. Anyway, it's just breakfast. It doesn't cost much. The middle-aged woman said casually. Then she walked a few steps to Xiao Chen's stall, bought 2 fried dough sticks and a bowl of soy milk and sat on the side. After taking a bite, the middle-aged woman's face showed a satisfied smile. She nodded heavily and said, Yes, this is the taste. It can't be wrong. It's really delicious. When everyone saw that the middle-aged woman was eating with relish, as if it was very delicious, they were finally a little tempted. They all came forward to buy it. The youqiao and fried cakes that Xiao Chen had just fried were quickly sold out. After everyone ate it, they also praised it. They shouted that it was delicious and fought to buy a second portion. However, at this time they couldn't buy it directly because many people didn't get it the first time. There was already a long line, so they could only line up at the back. Xiaochen was busy again. He kept frying the fried dough sticks and fried cakes in the pan. Cheng Menjing was responsible for weighing the fried dough sticks and collecting money for the customers. Both of them were very busy. Once they were busy, time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, it was already past 8 in the morning. Because the business was very good, all the breakfast that Xiaochen made had been sold out. There was not much left of the materials that he prepared yesterday, but he still left a little dough like before. He planned to give it to the old woman in the grocery store when he went back. Cheng Menjing carefully counted the income on the side. This was the first time she made money with her own ability. Although the money she earned was less than the fraction of her usual pocket money, and her whole face was greasy and her body was wet with sweat, her mood was very carefree. There was a different sense of satisfaction. Hey, who allowed you to set up a stall here? When the two finished cleaning up and were preparing to close the stall, two guys in security uniforms suddenly walked over from a distance and stopped in front of the two people. One of them, a thin man with squinting eyes, crossed his arms and asked with a fierce face, "Do you have a stall permit? Have you paid the protection fee?" "What protection fee? What's the permit for setting up a stall?" Cheng Menjing was shocked by the sudden appearance of the person and was stunned. "What protection fee? All the stalls in the morning market are bought out. Why haven't I heard of any stall permit? Are you from the market management office?" Xiaochen frowned and asked. When he and Tang Tang set up a stall before, he didn't hear that there was a charge. "What's going on? Yo, you're quite arrogant, kid." The thin man with squinting eyes glared and took out a rubber stick from behind him. He knocked on the stall heavily and said fiercely, "Cut the crap. Let me tell you. If you want to set up a stall in the morning market, you have to pay a protection fee of 1,000 yuan. If you don't have a stall permit, you have to pay a fine of 1,000 yuan. If you want to continue to fool around here, hurry up and pay." "So, Xiaochen, is that true?" Cheng Menjing didn't understand these things. They hadn't made any money yet, and now they had to pay a fine of 2,000 yuan. What should they do? Don't mind these two psychopaths. They are just bored, so they come to the morning market to scam money. As soon as the rubber stick came out, Xiaochen understood that these two men were punks. He didn't know where they found two security uniforms and wore them to scam people. These tricks could bully those new and ignorant stalls and hawkers, but they didn't work on Xiaochen at all. "Motherf *Cur, you're tired of living, aren't you? How dare you challenge me? I think you're asking for a beating. Let's see if you're honest or not." Seeing that Xiaochen wasn't intimidated, the other tall and burly man immediately glared at him. He grabbed Xiaochen's collar and swung his fist, which was the size of an earthenware bowl, towards his face. Crack. The sound of bones breaking was accompanied by a scream. The thin man with squinting eyes said proudly, "You're so cocky. Now you know fear." He stared dumbfoundedly at Xiaochen, only to see that Xiaochen was standing unscathed, while the tall man was hugging his arm and screaming miserably. His entire fist had already been deformed. "Ow, ow." The tall man squatted on the ground in pain, sweating non-stop. The thin man with squinting eyes was stunned. He didn't see what happened just now. Wasn't Xiaochen the one who was beaten? Why was it the other way around? After a while, the thin man with squinting eyes reacted. He pointed at Xiaochen and scolded, "You dare to provoke us. Don't leave if you have guts. Just you wait." The thin man with squinting eyes said ruthlessly. He helped the tall man up and prepared to leave. "Stop." Before he could take a few steps, Xiaochen directly rushed over and grabbed the neck of the thin man with squinting eyes. He grabbed the collar of the tall man and dragged both of them back. "Cough. What else do you want?" The thin man with squinting eyes was choked until his face turned red. He couldn't breathe. Xiaochen pointed to the gap on the table and said slowly, "You broke my things and you want to slip away? Stop pretending to be a dead dog. Hurry up and pay up." The thin man with squinting eyes was suddenly dumbfounded. He stuttered to explain, "This? I didn't break it. I'm using a rubber stick. How could I break a wooden table?" "You're blackmailing me." He was regretting it. He didn't expect the Youqiao seller to be a martial artist. Not only was he more arrogant than him, but his strength was also not small. He couldn't break free even if he wanted to. It was really a case of trying to hit a goose but getting pecked in the eye by the goose. "Don't say those useless things. Anyway, I saw you break it and then the case collapsed." "What? Do you still want to deny it? Why don't we go to the corner and talk about it?" Xiaochen used his strength and increased the strength of his fingers. The thin man with squinting eyes rolled his eyes. I'll pay up. Hero, spare my life. The thin man with squinting eyes' face had turned purple. He struggled to breathe heavily. And at least you know what's good for you. Xiao Chen let go of his fingers and said lightly, since you sincerely want compensation, I won't ask for more from you. How about this? The cost of the case is 1,000 yuan, plus another 1,000 yuan for lost work. You just have to pay me 3,000 yuan. Isn't 2,000 yuan added up? Oh. The thin man with squinting eyes was suddenly stunned. This guy has a brute force, but why does his math seem to be bad? He was about to bargain. When he looked up, he suddenly saw Xiao Chen's smiling face. It seemed like he was waiting for him to continue. He suddenly shivered and said wittily, Hero, don't be angry. It really is 3,000 yuan. I'll pay up. He trembled as he took out his wallet from his pocket. The thin man with squinting eyes looked at it and found that there was only 1,000 yuan in it. He had no choice but to take out the tall man's wallet and take out all the money. He didn't bother to count it and handed it all to Xiao Chen. Chapter 868. That's more like it. Xiao Chen took the money and counted it. He realized that he still lacked 500 yen, but it seems that the two of them really didn't have any money on them. Thus, he waved his hand in annoyance. Tomorrow we'll do the same time. Bring the remaining 500 yen over and we'll call it even. Alright, get lost. The squint-eyed skinny man clenched his teeth and didn't dare to say anything else. He supported the tall man and limped away from the morning market street. Before he left, he glared at Xiao Chen fiercely, as if he wanted to memorize his appearance. Xiao Chen, aren't you too violent? They're obviously not good people. Aren't we keeping a low profile now? What if they come looking for trouble every few days? Cheng Menjing was a little worried as she reprimanded with her brows knitted. It's only the first day of their business, and they've already attracted such trouble. If they come to disturb them every few days, then would they still be able to open their business? It's fine. These people need to be disciplined. If they dare to come again, I'll beat them up. Xiao Chen casually replied, it's not a loss to keep a low profile. If you give them money, then it'll be troublesome if someone comes tomorrow. Look at how I beat up Lu Jinming and kicked Chao Yuliang when I set up my stall in the past. Who would dare to come again? Lad, you're in big trouble now. It's better for you to hide for a few days. They will definitely not let this matter go. A stall owner couldn't stand it anymore and reminded, Uncle, there's no one charging fees in the morning market. At most, there's some hoodlums. So where did those two come from? Could they be pretending to be managers? I remember that there weren't any security guards in the morning market in the past. Xiao Chen asked in puzzlement. He had been setting up his stall in the morning market for so long, but he had never seen any security guards patrolling. Could it be that they're new? It seems that you haven't been here for a long time, right? The stall owner sighed and helplessly said, those two hooligans just now looked like security guards on the surface, but they're actually gangsters who used all kinds of excuses to collect fees from the stall owners in the morning market. Xiao Chen's face darkened. The stall owner shook his head and continued, if anyone doesn't pay, hooligans will immediately come looking for trouble. They will either smash the stall or drive away the customers. Everyone will choose to pay in order to make a living. Xiao Chen, how about we stay at home for 2 days? Anyway, I've earned enough today to live on for a while, so there's no need to clash with those people. I'm counting on this stall to make money in the future. Cheng Menjing's face was a little pale as she hesitated. After listening to the stall owner, she could not help but feel a little afraid. She was not afraid of those hooligans, but now that she and Xiao Chen were being chased by the Kuei Mountain sect, it would be troublesome if their identities were exposed. Missy, you're too timid. They're just hooligans and you're a first-layer Devil Master Cultivator. You can easily swat them away like flies with a casual wave of your hand. What's there to be afraid of? Xiao Chen was very unconcerned. He placed the equipment back on the tricycle and prepared to pack up and go home. Tisk, you're talking nonsense. I'm not afraid of them. Cheng Menjing puffed out her chest indignantly. Suddenly thinking of something, she stretched out her hand and said, that's right, hurry up and give me the compensation money that you just stole from someone. Don't even think about hiding a secret stash of money on you. Who knows if you'll use it to pick up girls, Sure, take it. Xiao Chen readily took out the money. Anyway, apart from selling breakfast together, the two of them also lived together, so it did not make much of a difference who was in charge of the accounts. Cheng Menjing carefully hid the money in her breast pocket and felt it. After confirming that it was safe, she was finally satisfied. Xiao Chen's eyes also subconsciously glanced at Missy's slightly bulging chest. He coughed twice and patted the back seat of the tricycle. Come on, we'll leave the things at the grocery store as soon as possible. Then we'll go to the business office and apply for a broadband. Once the Wi-Fi is installed, you won't be so bored anymore. Unexpectedly, not only did Cheng Menjing not get on the tricycle, but she also shook her head like a rattled drum. No, when I came over this morning I sat so much, my butt hurts. You better come down and let me ride. You go to the back and help push the tricycle. Ah? You want to ride me? I didn't expect you to be so. Xiao Chen smiled with a very strange expression. When he was about to continue, he found that Cheng Menjing was staring at him with a murderous look. He had to shut his mouth, get off the tricycle obediently and walk to the back. Cheng Menjing got on the tricycle and rode crookedly all the way, followed by Xiao Chen and Invincible Dog. From time to time, there were dangerous situations. It took a lot of effort to ride to the grocery store. She was so tired that she was sweating all over. After jumping off the tricycle, Cheng Menjing was greatly relieved. From the bottom of her heart, she felt that sitting in a car was more comfortable. Riding a bicycle was simply too torturous. Missy couldn't remember why she chose to ride a bicycle, which was a hard labor. Xiao Chen had been helping Cheng Menjing control the tricycle. Although he was not so tired, he was also sweating all over. After giving the rest of the dough to the old lady, Xiao Chen chatted with her for a while, and then took Cheng Menjing back to their residence. Originally, he wanted to go directly to the business office to apply for broadband, but considering that both of them were sweaty and sticky, it was really uncomfortable. He decided to go back and take a shower first. Xiao Chen, what do you think we should do in the future? We can't always sell fried dough sticks in the morning market, right? On the way home, Cheng Menjing felt a little confused and murmured. No way? It's only the first day and you can't hold on anymore? Why don't you stay at home tomorrow? I can handle it by myself. Xiao Chen shrugged. He was quite used to this kind of life. Didn't he live like this before? He even planned to open a breakfast chain in the future. I didn't mean that. I mean, we can't always hide like this, right? Every day we are always on tenterhooks, always afraid of being recognized by the Quishan sect. When I was selling breakfast just now, I also looked around. I feel like I'm going crazy. Cheng Menjing pouted and complained. I didn't think so much. I just hope that Ma Peizhe won't do something desperate and cause trouble for the Xiao family and the Cheng family. Otherwise, I can only bite the bullet and fight him. Xiao Chen shook his head, feeling very helpless. Sigh. Cheng Menjing sighed and didn't know what to say for a moment. This matter was like a dead end. No matter who made the first move, it would cause unpredictable consequences. Just as Miss and Xiao Chen were having a headache, Ma Peizhe was also very annoyed and scratching his head. He knew that if he went to cause trouble for the Xiao family or the Cheng family, he could immediately lure Xiao Chen out, but he didn't dare to do so. Although the pain of losing his son made Ma Peizhe hate Xiao Chen to the bone, he was not a fool. Previously, he exposed his strength to chase after Xiao Chen, which was already considered very impressive. At this time, people in and out of the martial arts world were probably discussing countermeasures and thinking of ways to deal with him. Therefore, after Ma Peizhe woke up, he had been very cautious. No matter what he did, he was careful and kept a low profile. He was afraid that other sects would use him as a target and take the opportunity to impeach him. Although he could escape with his strength, he would definitely implicate the Quishan sect and even Awakening Heaven sect. If things really got out of hand, no one could protect him at that time. Even if he hid at the ends of the earth, he would be easily found by people in and out of the martial arts world. Then what awaited him was only death. At this time, Ma Peizhe was sitting in the villa by the Lidhua River, smoking gloomily. He had received news from his disciple saying that he had found out that Xiao Chen and Cheng Menjing had fled back to the villa in Songning City, so he rushed over as soon as possible. In the end, when he arrived, it was empty. There was no one in the villa. The clues were cut off here and Ma Wuxian had a headache again. Although he did not attend the meeting at Awakening Heaven sect, Sidu Qitian had called him after the meeting. Although he was furious and scolded him, he was not in a hurry to summon him back. Instead, he warned him to keep a low profile outside. Ma Peizhe couldn't figure out Sidu Qitian's intentions, but he knew the leader's character too well. Sidu Qitian was a narrow-minded person who couldn't tolerate the failure of his subordinates, but he was willing to indulge Ma Peizhe to stay a few more days, so Ma Peizhe was a little puzzled and couldn't understand. But in any case, Ma Peizhe knew that he definitely couldn't stay in the secular world for long, so he had to get rid of Xiao Chen as soon as possible and then take the initiative to return to Awakening Heaven sect to admit his guilt. Ma Peja pinched the cigarette butt and stomped his feet. After looking around, he was ready to leave the villa. But as soon as he walked out of the door, he saw an old woman pushing a garbage truck outside the door. That pair of narrowed eyes kept staring at him, and there seemed to be a sense of mockery in her eyes. "Old fart, why don't you look at your mother? Believe it or not, I will dig out your eyeballs and feed them to the dogs." Ma Peja was a little upset, and at this time, he directly flew into a rage, pointing at the old woman and scolding. This old thing had been here since he entered the door just now. As a result, he came out and this guy was still here. He even looked at him with that kind of eyes. He didn't know what it meant. "You." The old woman suddenly flew into a rage and was about to explode on the spot, but she quickly calmed down, seeming to have some scruples about Ma Peja. She rolled her eyes and said indifferently, "Hee, you mean you're a woman? F*ck. Are you F*king courting death?" Ma Peja was so angry that he directly raised his hand. This old thing, he could slap her to death with one slap. But his hand didn't fall for a long time. Ma Peja thought about it carefully. If he slapped an ordinary person to death and the other sex used it as an excuse to cause trouble, it was really not worth it. Forget it. Left with no other choice, Ma Peja pretended that nothing had happened and turned around to leave. While walking, he took out his mobile phone and called the disciples of his sect, cursing them in a bitter voice. "You bunch of useless fools. Hurry up and hurry up. Go and find him. If you can't find him, all of you get out of here." Chapter 869. The old woman who was pushing the garbage truck had an almost imperceptible smile on her face. She shook her head slightly as she looked at Ma Peja's silhouette. "With your level of skill, you still want to look for someone? Go find a ghost. How did you think of asking those disciples who don't even know Xiaoqin to look for Xiaoqin? Where do you expect them to find him? Even if you send people to turn the entire Songning city upside down, you probably won't be able to find a trace of Xiaoqin." Thinking of this, the old woman was too lazy to care about Ma Peja's whereabouts. Instead, she took out a mobile phone from her pocket and dialed a number in her address book. "Mr. Xing, long time no see. Do you have any instructions for me? Please feel free to speak. I will serve you wholeheartedly." On the other end of the phone, a middle-aged man with a strange accent asked respectfully. It turned out that this old woman was Miss Xing in disguise. She originally thought that as long as she followed Ma Peja, she would be able to find Xiaoqin smoothly. Who would have thought that after a few days, Ma Peja was still like a headless fly, running around aimlessly. He couldn't find Xiaoqin's whereabouts at all, not even a single clue. "Yorishima Kikuo, immediately send me a copy of Xiaoqin's information. Remember, I don't want official information from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. You should know what to do, right?" Miss Xing's voice returned to normal. She was no longer old but ordered coldly. Her tone had regained its usual arrogance. "Okay, no problem. I will ask Ling Qianxue to send the information to you. May I know your location?" Yorishima Kikuo agreed immediately. This order was not difficult for him at all. After all, he was from the secular world and had done a thorough investigation on Xiaoqin. So, Yorishima Kikuo already had all the information on Xiaoqin in the secular world. He could take it out at any time. "I am at Songning City's Qianhua Waterfront Villa District, Block XX. Ask her to find me directly. That's all." Miss Xing said simply, hung up the phone, threw away the garbage truck, and hid in Xiaoqin's villa. She removed the disguise of an old woman, but still dressed as a man. She sat on the sofa and waited. Not long after, Ling Qianxue drove the car to the villa. After seeing young Master Xing, she handed over the information to him and was in no hurry to leave. She quietly stood at the side, waiting for new instructions. Yukio Yashima had already instructed her to cooperate with young noble Xing as long as he needed it. Little girl Xing opened the document and read it carefully. The information was very detailed. It started from the time Xiaoqin was kicked out of the Xiao family and became an abandoned good-for-nothing, all the way until he became the deputy director of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. There was all the information about the secular world, but there was no information about the martial arts world. Perhaps it was also because Yorishima Kikuo's ability was limited, and he could not get involved in too many sects in the outer martial arts world. He did not know much about what happened inside, so there was no record of this. Little girl Xing analyzed as she read, mainly focusing on the records of the period when Xiaoqin was down and out. She repeatedly studied it several times, and finally locked her eyes on the section where he and Tang Tang went to the morning market to sell fried dough sticks. "Hee, A dignified demon sect master of the outer martial arts world actually sold fried dough sticks in the secular world. How unexpected. Little girl Xing tapped on the information page with her finger, and her tone was full of disdain. Little girl Xing made a conclusion in her heart, then looked up and asked, Ling Qinxue, do you know where the morning market is? I have looked into it. It's not too far from the villa, about 15 minutes by car. Ling Qinxue nodded and replied. Okay, let's go. You drive me there now. Little girl Xing put away the information, stood up and left the villa, directly sitting in the car outside the door. Ling Qinxue did not have any objection. Before she came, Yorishima Kikuo had already told her to listen to little girl Xing's instructions, so she followed him out without a word. After sitting in the driver's seat, she started the engine and drove directly in the direction of the morning market street. When they arrived at the morning market street, it was already noon. Many vendors had already closed their stalls and gone home, and the remaining stall owners were also packing up their things. There were a lot less pedestrians on the street, and the entire morning market street was empty. Since she was afraid of exposing her identity, little girl Xing did not get out of the car immediately. Instead, she asked Ling Qinxue to drive the car directly into the morning market street, and parked it near Xiao Chen's stall. From the car she stared out. Didn't the information say that Xiao Chen sold fried dough sticks? Why is that stall selling fried dough sticks? Could it be that the information is wrong? Little girl Xing sat in the front passenger seat, looking at the sign of Lin's fried dough sticks in confusion. Then she took out the information and flipped through it. Strange, the location was indeed recorded here. What little girl Xing did not know was that Yorishima Kikuo did not care about the fact that Tang Tang had given the stall to the Lins. Even if he knew, he would not record such a trivial matter. He probably could not even remember the information. I'm not too sure about this. How about I go and ask them? Ling Qinxue was also confused. After thinking for a while, she asked for little girl Xing's opinion. Seeing that little girl Xing did not agree or disagree, she took the initiative to get out of the car and walk to the Lin's stall. Since it was the weekend, the Lin's stall closed a little later than usual. At this time it was almost time to clean up. Lin Ke was helping to tidy up the bowls and chopsticks when she saw a girl walking towards her family's stall. She hurriedly walked up to her apologetically and said, I'm sorry, we have already closed up. If you want to eat beef plate noodles, you can come back tomorrow morning. Stupid girl. What nonsense are you talking about? Mother Lin, who was standing on the side, glared at Ke Lin. How could she let go of a business opportunity? Mother Lin pulled Ke Lin over and greeted her enthusiastically. Little girl, please sit for a while. I'll cook a bowl of fried dough sticks for you right away. It'll be quick. Oh, sorry to trouble you. Since Ling Qinxue was here to ask for information, she did not refuse. She found a place to sit down and waited for a while. Then she pretended to ask casually, Auntie, I remember that there used to be a stall selling fried dough sticks here. It should have been opened by a man and a woman. Why are they changing now? Did they move away? Yes, they moved away a few months ago. Since my daughter is their classmate and they have a good relationship, they let us have the stall. Mother Lin did not care. She skillfully cooked the dough sticks and answered casually. Ling Qinxue suddenly realized. Wasn't this Lin's fried dough sticks opened by Ke Lin's family? Although there was no information about this stall in Xiao Chen's information, it was mentioned that Xiao Chen used to pursue Ke Lin when he was in school. Also, when he sold fried dough sticks in the morning market, he would help the Lin family's business from time to time. I'm sorry. I suddenly don't want to eat the noodles. I'll leave the money here. Keep the change. After Ling Qinxue understood the ins and outs of the matter, she couldn't wait to stand up. She put the money on the table and turned to walk in the direction of her car. Anyway, her real purpose was not to eat the noodles. Since she had already found the information she wanted, there was no need to stay any longer. What's wrong with you? I can pack it for you. Mother Lin had just served the noodles and was stunned when she heard Ling Qinshue's words. When she came back to her senses, there was no trace of Ling Qinxue. Looking at the brand new red banknote on the table, Mother Lin immediately panicked. She quickly said to Ke Lin, Why are you still standing there like a fool? You just watched her leave and didn't know how to stop her. Hurry up and see if that banknote is fake. Ke Lin blinked her eyes and obediently picked up the banknote on the table. She carefully looked at it a few times and then said, This money is real. There's no problem. Are you serious? Let me see. Mother Lin didn't quite believe it. She wiped her hands on her apron and took the banknote and looked at it for a long time under the sun. Only then did she confirm that it was real. She let out a sigh of relief and said, "It's good that it's real. Since that little girl doesn't want to eat, then let's keep this bowl of noodles for lunch." As she spoke, Mother Lin quickly put away the money. She had earned 100 yuan today, which made her very happy. Lin didn't answer, but looked in the direction where Ling Qianxue had disappeared. She didn't care too much about whether the banknote was real or fake. Instead, she was wondering why such a beautiful girl would come to inquire about Xiao Chen and Tang Tang's stall. Could it be? Could it be that there was some conflict between them? Or was she an ex-girlfriend who was dumped by Xiao Chen and came to take revenge? She didn't realize that every time she encountered something about Xiao Chen, her imagination would run wild. Ling Qianxue returned to the car and briefly reported the situation to Miss Xing. Miss Xing didn't give up on this clue after hearing it. Instead, she lowered her head and thought, since Xiao Chen had given the stall to Lin's family, then the stall where the Lin family used to be should be empty. So, could it be? Thinking of this, Miss Xing immediately flipped through the information and found the address of the Lin family's stall. She immediately asked Ling Qianxue to start the car and drive to the Lin family's stall. As expected, before the car stopped, the sharp-eyed Miss Xing found a small piece of youtiao on the ground not far away. It seemed to be leftovers and probably hadn't been cleaned by the cleaners yet. Seeing this scene, Miss Xing immediately knew what was going on. But to be safe, she still got out of the car and asked a lot of nearby stalls and customers. There was indeed a man and a woman who had opened a new youtiao stall here, and it had just opened not long ago. After Miss Xing got the accurate answer, she immediately came up with a plan. After discussing it with Ling Qianxue, the two of them began to implement it separately and went about their own business. A few days later, the reputation of Tang's breakfast shop grew in the morning market street. Every day there would be a long line. The crowd spread the news by word of mouth, and it soon reached the ears of Lin. Chapter 870. After hearing that, Lin was very curious. She wondered if Xiao Chen and Tang Tang came back to sell breakfast again. So she found a little free time and rushed over excitedly. When she arrived at the place, Lin took a closer look and found that although the stall was also selling fried dough sticks and fried cakes, the man and the woman were very strange. She didn't know them at all. Disappointed, Lin was about to leave. Suddenly, the corner of her eyes caught the equipment of the stall. It seemed a little familiar. Why did it look like it was used by Xiao Chen before? Excuse me, is your Tang's breakfast shop newly opened? I don't think I've seen it before. Lin hesitated for a moment, but still plucked up her courage and went forward to ask. Yes, we just opened a few days ago. Xiao Chen answered casually. Suddenly he felt that the voice was a little familiar. He looked up subconsciously and was stunned. Lin? Why is she here? For Lin, this simple and kind little girl, Xiao Chen's heart had always been very complicated. He didn't know how to position himself. It was true that he liked her a little, but it was estimated that there would be no development between them. After all, there was no more intersection in life. Xiao Chen could only help her family as much as possible. Oh, my house used to be at the place where you are now, so... I'm sorry, I just found your equipment a little familiar, so I wanted to ask if these things were given to you by Xiao Chen? Do you know where he and Sister Tang Tang are? Lin didn't know that Xiao Chen had recognized her. She hesitated for a long time and asked cautiously. Oh, they seem to have left Songning City after they transferred the stall to me. I'm not too sure where exactly they went. Why don't you call them and ask? Xiao Chen could only find a perfunctory excuse to brush her off. He couldn't protect himself now, so it was better not to let Lin know the truth. He didn't know what had happened when this little girl suddenly came to find him. Could it be that her family's shop was threatened by hooligans again? I called them, but their phones were turned off. I couldn't get in touch with them. Lin shook her head in disappointment. Although she didn't have a cell phone, she always remembered Xiao Chen and Tang Tang's phone numbers. She had already tried to contact him a few times, but his phone was always turned off. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't get through. In fact, Lin's main purpose was to find Xiao Chen. It wasn't because she had encountered any trouble, but because he had often helped the Lin family in the past. Although he looked scary, he was still a good person. She had finally saved some money and wanted to treat Xiao Chen to a meal to thank him in person, but she couldn't get in touch with him no matter how hard she tried. Xiao Cheng Menjing sold out the stock in front of her in a flash, but she didn't get any fresh fried dough sticks for a long time. She was still wondering why there was no movement from Xiao Chen. When she turned her head, she found that he was actually chatting with Lin. She almost died of anger. Due to inertia, Cheng Minjing subconsciously called out Xiao Chen's name. Fortunately, she found something wrong halfway, so she immediately stopped and changed her words. Xiao. Kid, what are you doing? Hurry up and get to work. Are you stupid when you see a young girl? Don't talk nonsense there. Don't you see so many people waiting in line? Are you making them anxious? Maybe it was still not enough. Cheng Minjing asked Kerlin, little girl, are you going to buy breakfast? If you are, you have to line up according to the rules. No, I'm not buying breakfast. Sorry to bother you. You guys go ahead. Kerlin was shocked and quickly waved her hand. She took a few steps back and turned to walk to her stall. But before she walked 2 steps, she seemed to think of something. Kerlin suddenly turned her head and looked at Cheng Minjing a few times in confusion. She felt that her voice was a bit familiar, as if she had heard it somewhere, but her face was very strange. Did I hear it wrong? After thinking about it, Kerlin still shook her head and left. There were too many people in the world with similar voices. She didn't know the one in front of her at all. She must have heard it wrong. I say, eldest Miss, Lin Ke was just curious and came over to ask. Why are you so fierce to her? Don't tell me you're jealous? Xiao Chen teased as he continued to fry the youtiao in his hands. When he was with Tang Tang and Shen Jingxian, the miss didn't seem to be so resistant. Only when she was facing Kerlin, she always looked at her with hostility. He didn't know what was going on. Who has the time to care about your romantic debts? Cheng Minjing rolled her eyes and snappily said, You brat, you've never been able to keep your mouth shut, especially after seeing Lin Ke. It's as if you've lost your soul. Did I? Xiao Chen scratched his head. He didn't seem to have much of a reaction, did he? Of course you did. Cheng Minjing glared at him hatefully and said, What if you accidentally expose your identity and the people from the Kuei Mountain sect find out? Even if Kerlin knows, it won't be a big deal, right? And it seems that you almost blurted out my name just now. How can you blame it on me? Xiao Chen muttered helplessly. I saw that you were just chatting and not doing business, so I blurted it out in a hurry. Now you're blaming me. Cheng Minjing quibbled, then frowned and said, But we really should be careful or else we'll accidentally spill it. How about, we give ourselves a fake name? From now on, when we set up our stall, we'll call each other by their fake names. Okay, what name do you want? Xiao Chen didn't mind and asked casually. Let me think. Alright. I'll call you Lily and you call me Yao Yao. Okay. It's decided. Cheng Minjing thought for a while and gave the answer, nodding heavily with a satisfied expression. What, Lily and Yao Yao? Where did you find such weird names? It doesn't sound good at all. Xiao Chen smiled bitterly, but he didn't strongly object. It was just a code name anyway. If the miss liked to call them that, then let her be. It's the main characters in School Bell's Adjunct, Lin Yi and Chu Mengyao. It's a popular drama on IQIYI recently, haven't you seen it? You're simply too old-fashioned. Hurry up and tutor yourself or else we won't have anything in common. Cheng Minjing glanced at Xiao Chen with disgust and reprimanded him. Okay, I'll go check it out when I have time. Xiao Chen replied casually, but he was pondering in his heart. Why did those 2 hooligans wearing security uniforms disappear without a trace in the past few days? Logically speaking, according to their attitude last time, they should immediately bring people to find trouble. He was still waiting for them to send money. He was so poor recently. A few days ago, Xiao Chen installed broadband and Wi-Fi in his house, and bought necessary appliances such as a washing machine and a refrigerator. The 2,000 yuan had long been spent. Now, although the income from selling breakfast every day was 1 to 200 yuan, it was only enough to maintain the living expenses of the 2 people. They didn't have much money on hand at all. However, what Xiao Chen didn't know was that the 2 punks actually came to the morning market every day, extorting money everywhere, but every time they avoided his stall and went to find trouble with other people. The 2 of them didn't dare to take the initiative to provoke Xiao Chen. Anyway, there wasn't much in the morning market, but there were a lot of stalls, and it was enough even if the 2 of them casually collected money. Motherf *Ker, we were too unlucky that day. Not only did we not receive a single cent, but we also lost a few thousand for no reason. These days, no matter how much money we collect, we can't make up for it. It's a big loss. It's like losing a wife and a soldier. The tall man had a cast and bandage on his right hand, and he was cursing as he wandered on the morning market, followed by the squint-eyed skinny guy. Just bear with it for now. Yesterday, I reported to my big brother. He is now in Lan City working for some Japanese merchant. He already knows about this situation, and he said that he will bring a few experts back in a few days to stand up for us. When that time comes, we can hold our heads high. the squint-eyed skinny guy said in a muffled voice as he looked at the surrounding stalls threateningly. The squint-eyed skinny guy was also very depressed, but the other party's strength was there for all to see. No matter how arrogant he was, there was nothing he could do if he couldn't beat him. Quick, look, that stall seems to be newly opened, it looks quite unfamiliar. The tall man suddenly pointed at a stall not far away and shouted in joy. The squint-eyed skinny guy looked over and sure enough, he saw a young couple with a stall, running a business selling pancakes and meat buns. However, the couple didn't seem to be interested in the business in front of them, and they didn't seem to be greeting customers. Instead, they kept whispering to each other as if they were discussing something, and from time to time, they would look at another stall. Oh ho, that girl looks quite good. The squint-eyed skinny guy's eyes lit up, and he subconsciously licked his lips. With an evil smile he said, let's go take a look. Even if we can't get any benefits, if we can trick that girl into our bed and make this old man happy, it's worth it. The two's eyes emitted green light, and they swaggered to the stall. The tall man kicked the leg of the table and angrily shouted, Hey! Are you new here? Have you paid protection fees for this stall? Have you applied for a stall permit? What protection fees, permit? Little Xing, who was disguised as a man, frowned, and looked at the two people in front of her. They didn't seem to have come with good intentions, so she didn't hold back and said, I don't know what you're talking about, I've never heard of a permit. If you don't want to die, then scram. It turned out that Little Xing and Ling Qianxue had just bought a stall at the morning market a few days ago, and the location was diagonally opposite Xiao Chen's stall, so that it would be easier to monitor. Little Xing even purposely put on makeup for Ling Qianxue, to ensure that she wouldn't be recognized by Xiao Chen. However, although the two were very strong when it came to doing morning work, they were instantly dumbfounded, they didn't know how to do it. Left with no other choice, Xing could only find the previous stall owner and hire him to work for them. Chapter 871. After the stall owner received the invitation, he felt a little baffled. He used to earn more than $3,000 selling breakfast. Now these two people bought his stall and still wanted him to make breakfast. They even gave him a salary of $3,000 a month. Wasn't this the same as setting up his own stall? Sure enough, people were stupid with money. However, the stall owner was also very smart. He didn't complain at all. Although those two people were a bit stupid, this was a great thing for him. He originally set up a stall with his wife to sell breakfast. Now that he could do it alone, his wife was free. This way he could do other work and earn more money. Why not? Little girl Xing didn't care about these things. Originally she was a little uncertain. Although that stall was indeed selling fried dough sticks, she didn't recognize the appearance of the young couple. What if they weren't Xiao Chen? However, when she saw Ke Lin looking for them this morning, she was finally sure. Just now, she was whispering to Ling Qianxue, analyzing whether or not Lin Ke had recognized Xiao Chen after she went over. In the end, two people rashly bumped into her, asking her for some protection fee the moment they opened their mouths. Motherf Ke, I didn't know you were a dog. You're as thin as a wire pole, but your temper is quite fierce? The squinted skinny guy was scolded and instantly became furious. He glared at little girl Xing and shouted, Less nonsense, hurry up. Take out $5,000 and I'll consider whether or not I should let this matter go. Otherwise, don't even think about staying here. You. Little girl Xing was a cultivation genius since she was young. When had she ever heard such filthy words? She was so angry that her vision turned black. However, when she looked at Xiao Chen's stall, she forcefully endured it. She couldn't act rashly. If Xiao Chen saw through her, then it would be troublesome. Ling Qianxue was scolded for no reason. She also had a face full of displeasure. However, she still forcefully suppressed the anger in her heart. She pointed at Xiao Chen's stall and asked, Their stall just opened, why don't you guys go and collect money from them? Why are you looking for us? You're really crazy. I'm willing. I see that you guys are easy to bully, so I purposely looked for you. What about it? The squinted skinny guy's nose was in the air. Seeing that the couple didn't dare to say anything, he was sure that they were afraid of trouble. He put on a fake smile and said, How about this, little girl, you play with us for a few days. As long as you make us happy, then we'll write off the protection money. Ling Qianxue was stunned. She had never seen such a shameless person. Her heart was burning with anger, but for a moment her hands and feet couldn't react. She just stood there stupidly. Seeing that Ling Qianxue didn't have any reaction, the squinted skinny man was relieved. He reached out his hand wanting to take advantage of Ling Qianxue. He even flirted, "That's more like it. Pa. Ling Ling Ling. You is you. Ling you are. Ling." Before the squinted skinny guy's hand could touch Ling Qianxue's chest, it was slapped away by Ling Qianxue. However, he didn't suffer any injuries. "Stinking brat, the two of us are courting your wife. That's because we think highly of you. Don't be so shameless." The tall man glared at him and shouted. Ling Qianxue didn't pay attention to him. She pushed him lightly because she was afraid that she would be too heavy-handed and kill him. After thinking for a while, she ordered Ling Qianxue, "Go teach these two a lesson. But don't be too harsh. Don't kill them. Just beat them until they are half dead." Normally, Ling Qianxue would be afraid of alarming Xiao Chen and definitely wouldn't say this. However, she saw that there was already a large group of customers waiting to buy breakfast in front of Xiao Chen's stall. It was so packed that not even a drop of water could trickle through. Presumably, they wouldn't have time to care about the situation here. Thus, they didn't have to worry about anything. Yes. At this time, Ling Qianxue had already come back to her senses. She had a belly full of anger. Since Ling Qianxue had already spoken, she didn't hesitate. She directly pulled the two people to a corner and raised her hand to violently beat them up. "Ah, heroine. Spare us." The squinted skinny guy and the tall man only felt their vision blur. They fell heavily to the ground. Following that, a wave of pain came from their bodies. The storm-like attacks didn't give them a chance to get up. The two people curled up in the corner and continuously begged for mercy. However, their miserable cries were quickly covered by the cries of the surrounding stall owners. Basically, no one heard what happened here. After a few minutes of beating, Ling Qianxue finally felt that she had vented enough. Only then did she stop and return to her stall. However, Ling Qianxue still hadn't vented her anger. She crossed her arms and walked over. Looking down from above, she coldly said, "What? Aren't the two of you quite capable? Why aren't you showing off? Keep jumping. I want to see when you can jump to death." Hero, spare us. We were just joking with you. SSS. Please don't take it seriously. Please let us go." The squinted skinny guy's face was green and purple. He couldn't even speak fluently. He could only spit out a few words intermittently. His appearance was as miserable as one could imagine. Yes, you're a great person and don't hold grudges against us. Don't bother with us, I beg you." The tall man was also in a terrible state. The cast that was originally wrapped around his right hand had long been broken. There wasn't a single piece of uninjured flesh on his body. When he spoke, his mouth was leaking air. "You want me to let you go? Sure. Don't you like to extort people? Then I'll let you have a taste of being extorted." Ling Qianxue rolled up her sleeves and put her hands on her waist like a teapot. She then glared at them and said, "Hurry up and hand over $5,000 of protection fee. Maybe this young master's mood is good, and I'll spare your dog lives. Hurry up, don't waste time." When Xing Qianxue was spying on them these past few days, she often saw Qing Minjing adopt this posture to teach Xiao Chen a lesson. It seemed to be very imposing, so under her curiosity she subconsciously imitated it. After trying it out, she really felt that it was very much like a rich young miss. Ling Qianxue, on the other hand, looked at young Master Xing with a strange expression. "This guy. Why does he look like a woman?" However, she only dared to mutter in her heart. She didn't dare to say it out loud. She only secretly thought, could it be that all the people in the martial arts world have some kind of weird fetish? "Okay. I'll give it all to you." The squinted skinny man couldn't be bothered to look at Miss Xing's posture and didn't dare to retort. He hurriedly trembled as he took out the $6,000 he had just received in protection fees and handed it all to Miss Xing. The tall man was trembling at the side. His heart was suffering unspeakably. What's going on with this morning street recently? Where did all these people with high martial arts skills suddenly come from? Even a woman can be so good at fighting. It's really strange. Okay, the amount is correct. I'll let you go this time. Hurry up and roll into a ball before I change my mind. Xing Qianxue weighed the money in her hand. She was too lazy to carefully count it. She directly put it in her pocket and continued her work of spying on them. Seeing that Xing Qianxue had let them go, the squinted skinny guy and the tall man finally let out a sigh of relief. The two endured the pain and stood up. After supporting each other and leaving, the stall owner who worked for Xing Qianxue slowly and carefully walked back. Just now he had seen the two hooligans coming over from afar. As someone who had set up a stall here for a long time, he knew very well how powerful these two people were. He was afraid of being implicated, so he immediately found an excuse to go to the toilet. After walking away, he hid in the distance and quietly watched. The previous scene was all seen by him. The stall owner couldn't help but secretly click his tongue. I was wondering why they weren't afraid at all. So it turns out that they relied on this to make money. At first, I thought that this couple was stupid. Now it seems that they were just hiding their strength. At this time, at the stall not far away, although Xiao Chen's subordinates were busy, he had already noticed the movement here. Just now when Ling Qianxue made her move, she unconsciously released a bit of a martial artist's aura. Xiao Chen acutely felt that the opposite corner of the wall was a bit strange, so he quietly released his divine sense to check, and immediately discovered an old acquaintance. Xiao Chen didn't know the others, but Xiao Chen was very familiar with the appearance of the ladyboy prince. Although this guy had makeup on, Xiao Chen immediately recognized him from his ladyboy demeanor. As for the other girl, she was probably her follower. Her strength was also at the martial master level. Looking at the situation, she had set up a stall over there. The two reckless hooligans provoked her and were currently being beaten up. However, although Xiao Chen had discovered the two of them, he didn't immediately expose them. Although he didn't know what Xing Chick was planning, as long as they didn't bother him, Xiao Chen was too lazy to pay attention to them for the time being. Because he used the ability of a cultivator to make breakfast, it didn't take long for Xiao Chen to make a lot of fried dough sticks and fried cakes. It was enough for Qing Minjing to sell for a while. It just so happened that the flow of customers at this time was not large. Xiao Chen simply stopped and continued to release his divine sense. He wanted to check if there were any other suspicious people nearby except for Xing Chick and the others. Since returning to Songning, Xiao Chen had been on tenterhooks every day, fearing that Ma Baixia would suddenly appear. If he was alone, it would be better. The problem was that Miss was still by his side, and her strength was not high. Therefore, Xiao Chen still had to worry about whether she would be ambushed. Moreover, it was not very convenient for the two of them to escape. After probing with his divine sense, Xiao Chen realized that the battle on Little Chick Xing's side had already ended. The two hooligans were walking back with their tails between their legs. Meanwhile, Little Chick Xing was pretending to sell breakfast as if nothing had happened. Her eyes would occasionally glance over. Xiao Chen touched his chin and pondered for a while. Suddenly he thought of an idea and couldn't help but chuckle a few times. Chapter 872. After the two hooligans were taught a lesson by Ling Qianxue, they didn't run far. Instead, they turned into a nearby alley and sat on a big rock to rest. The tall man took out some ointment and screamed as he wiped the bruises on his body. "We are really unlucky." While rubbing the wound on his chest with the ointment, the tall man grumbled, "I don't know what's wrong with us. We actually met a martial artist twice. I didn't expect that girl who looked pretty and weak to be so heavy-handed. So, let's not talk about it. Let's think about what to do when we go back." The squint-eyed skinny man sighed heavily. Suddenly he thought of something and patted his thigh. As a result, he patted the wound and immediately cried out in pain. After a while, the squint-eyed skinny man said in a hissing voice, "I know. This year is my zodiac year. I have always forgotten to wear red underwear. This must be the reason why I am unlucky." "Damn you idiot. That's probably it." The tall man scolded, "Go back and buy a few hundred pairs of red underwear. Wear it from now until next year. I don't want to be unlucky with you." When the squint-eyed skinny man sighed, the tall man wanted to use the ointment to wipe the wound on his back. However, as soon as he stretched out his right hand, he felt a dull pain. So, he had no choice but to say to the squint-eyed skinny man, "Help me apply the ointment. I can't reach it." TSK, I really didn't know that you guys actually have this kind of hobby. Hurry up and tell me who is the one on top. Who is the one on the bottom?" The squint-eyed skinny man was half naked. While he was applying the ointment on the tall man's back, he suddenly heard a sarcastic voice coming from behind. The two of them were shocked and turned their heads at the same time. They were shocked to find that Xiao Chen was standing not far from the entrance of the alley, looking at them with a mocking face. The two of them were so scared that they almost peed their pants. Without even putting on their clothes, they directly jumped off the rock and wanted to escape. Hey, what the hell are you two doing? Why did you run away when you saw me? What's the matter? You don't want to pay your debts? Do you want to go back on your word?" How could Xiao Chen let them escape so easily? With a big stride he arrived behind them and grabbed both of their necks. One on each side, he lifted them up as if they were puppies. When Xiao Chen released his divine sense just now, He sensed that these two people were recuperating nearby. Therefore, he told Qing Minjing that he needed to go to the toilet and quickly rushed over. These two fellows still owed money. Xiao Chen had been short of money recently. If he didn't get his debt back from them, he wouldn't be able to continue living. No. Hero, you've misunderstood. We saw that you've come, so we wanted to buy you a bottle of water. You must be thirsty, right? The squint-eyed skinny man complained incessantly. He racked his brains to come up with a reason while his eyes rolled around. He was thinking intensely about how he could escape successfully. Oh, I'm not thirsty, don't say those useless things. What's the matter? You two are thinking about escaping, aren't you? Xiao Chen saw through the squint-eyed skinny man's thoughts at a glance. He simply threw them to the corner, crossed his arms in front of his chest, and stared at them condescendingly. Anyway, this place was a secluded alley. Generally no one would pass by. Even if they passed by and saw that he was getting rid of the tyrant, they probably wouldn't interfere. Hiss! The tall man was hit hard and he felt as if his whole body was falling apart. He suddenly took a deep breath, and his expression was as sad as if his father had died. He lowered his head and said, "Hero, we didn't want to escape, but as you can see we are seriously injured. We want to go to the hospital to see a doctor. Please be merciful and spare us." Lie continued to lie. Just now, I clearly saw that you two had finished applying the ointment, and your body still smelled like a bruise. Are you trying to scare me? Xiao Chen had a displeased look on his face. He lifted his leg and kicked the tall man. It just so happened to touch his wound, causing the guy to roll around in pain. Xiao Chen didn't have any sympathy for people who bullied the weak and feared the strong. Usually they would be very unreasonable to those weak vendors who set up stalls. He guessed that even Lin Ker's family had been charged protection fees by them. This kick of his was to help the Lin family vent their anger. We didn't. The squint-eyed skinny man saw that Xiao Chen was so ruthless. He suddenly stuttered. He couldn't argue for a long time and he didn't dare to say much. Otherwise he would definitely be kicked again. Oh, I know. After you used the bruise ointment, you felt that it didn't work, so you wanted to go to the hospital for treatment, right? Xiao Chen asked with a faint smile. Yes. This thing has no effect at all. It must be a fake sold by a profiteer. It cost me dozens of yuan. The squint-eyed skinny man quickly grabbed this life-saving straw. He threw away the bottle in his hand and said angrily, "Oh, but I see that you guys are recovering well. Your waist isn't sore, your legs aren't hurting, and you can even throw the ointment." Xiao Chen clenched his fists and cracked his knuckles. A cold smile flashed across the corner of his mouth as he said unhurriedly, "How about this? Since you want to go to the hospital, I'll beat you up again so that you don't have to come here in vain and waste money." No, hero. Don't hit us. We are really fine. Wow, this is really a miracle in the medical world. I think we don't need to go to the hospital anymore. The squint-eyed skinny man quickly endured the pain on his body and struggled to stand up. He gritted his teeth and shook his arm. He even took a few steps and tried to squeeze out a smile that was uglier than crying. That's not right. Don't you see that kid still rolling on the ground? I think you guys still have to go. Don't delay the treatment. Xiao Chen pointed to the tall macho man and said calmly. He also took 2 steps forward and pretended to hit him. I've also recovered. This medicine is really magical. It seems that I have to buy a few more bottles in the future. The tall macho man saw that the situation was not good. He quickly turned over and stood up. He sighed with a bitter face. Since you are all fine, then don't do radio gymnastics here. Hurry up and return the money. This hero can fry hundreds of youtiao in a minute. I don't have the time to watch you act here. Xiao Chen shook his legs and shouted angrily. He seemed very impatient. But we don't have any money on us now. The squint-eyed skinny man suddenly thought of a bad idea. He quickly said with a troubled face, Just now we actually had more than 6,000 yuan. We wanted to collect more money and give it to you as a gift. In the end it was all snatched away by someone else. We wanted to reason with the other party, but not only did we not, we were beaten up. So unlucky. The squint-eyed skinny man had the idea of 2 tigers fighting. Since the guy in front of him was good at martial arts and the chick who beat him looked quite powerful, if he could make the 2 of them fight, wouldn't he be able to sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight? Wasn't there a saying that when 2 sides fought, the one who fished would benefit? Maybe he could even get a bargain in the end. What do you mean? Who beat you up? Is there anyone who has the guts to rob me of my money? Xiao Chen pretended to be angry. He saw through the squint-eyed skinny man's plan at a glance, but he did not expose it. Instead he pretended to fall into the trap. In fact, he had other plans in mind. It's the husband and wife who sold pancakes and meat buns diagonally across from your stall. Not only did they beat us up, but they also asked me for 5,000 yuan. I wanted to give this money to you, so I insisted on not giving it. In the end, I was beaten up again. I had no choice. Sigh. The squint-eyed skinny man pretended to be pitiful and sighed. He secretly observed Xiao Chen's expression to see how he would react. Oh my God. Are you stupid? Do you think I don't know how to count? I was a prodigy back then, did you know that? You brought more than 6,000 and gave him 5,000. Minus 5,000 from 6,000, shouldn't you still have more than 1,000? Hurry up and give me the money, don't dawdle. Xiao Chen raised his hand and knocked on the squint-eyed skinny man's head. He was in so much pain that he covered his head and cried out in pain. He was seeing stars. Hero? Skinny man didn't lie to you. We wanted to give you 5,000 yuan to settle the matter. We didn't expect that when we took out the money, they would snatch it all away. We had no choice. The tall man probably guessed the squint-eyed skinny man's idea. Plus, this was the truth, so he said helplessly with a sad face. TSK, you two are useless. Hurry up and find them. Get the money back for this hero. Otherwise, don't even think about having a good time. Xiao Chen stared at the two men in front of him as if he was looking at a dead man. Hero, we don't dare. Besides, we can't beat them. Otherwise, the money wouldn't have been snatched away. The squint-eyed skinny man had finally recovered. When he heard that he was going to ask for money again, he was so scared that his legs went soft. Besides, they hoped that Xiao Chen would go to ask for money. How did it become them going to ask for it themselves? The squint-eyed skinny man didn't dare to agree no matter what. What are you afraid of? This hero will go with you to get the money. I don't believe that I can't get it back. Xiao Chen waved his hand and said boldly. Actually, he did this on purpose. He took advantage of the situation and went with these two punks. Xiao Chen actually wanted to see what this chick Xing was up to. Now that there was an opportunity, he obviously couldn't let it go. The squint-eyed skinny man and the tall man looked at each other. Both of them saw the fear in each other's eyes. Although their goal was achieved, they were still a little scared when they thought about how they had to follow. The squint-eyed skinny man hesitated for a moment and said carefully, Hero, your martial arts are unparalleled. Of course you aren't afraid of them. But with our bodies, I'm afraid. Without waiting for the squint-eyed skinny man to finish, Xiao Chen waved his hand and interrupted him impatiently. Don't talk nonsense. I'll give you two choices. Either you come with me to get the money or you go to the hospital. Choose. Chapter 873. Alright. We'll go with the hero. The squinted skinny guy couldn't help but ridicule. You call this a choice? There was only one way to choose. Helpless, he could only grit his teeth and agree. Then he thought to himself, when the two of you start fighting, we'll quickly run away. The tall guy could only nod his head in agreement. Then the two of them followed Xiao Chen to the stall across the street, thinking about how to escape later. Dear customers, what would you like to eat? Our shop has meat buns, pancakes, porridge, and all kinds of breakfast. They're all hot. You can eat here or take it away. The stall owner saw that the two hooligans had returned with an unfamiliar man behind them. His expression froze and he stuttered a little. However, he remembered that his current boss, the husband and wife next to him, were both very powerful people. Just now they easily beat someone up. His confidence rose a little and he greeted them. It's none of your business. I'm here to find them. Xiao Chen ignored the enthusiastic stall owner and walked directly in front of Miss Xing. With a face like a playboy, he shook his legs and shouted, I heard from my friends that you stole their money, right? Hurry up and hand over the money. I'll pretend that nothing happened. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. Since he was here to collect a debt in name, Xiao Chen felt that he had to do it properly and justifiably. Therefore, he conveniently used the two hooligans beside him. You. Miss Xing originally thought that Xiao Chen had discovered her and was a little nervous. However, after hearing what Xiao Chen said, she was furious. She glared at Xiao Chen and thought, I'm here to protect you. Who would have thought that you would turn the tables on me and help these two hooligans to deal with me? How preposterous. Hubby, don't be rash. We don't need to bother with scum like him. Ling Chinshua saw that Miss Xing was about to explode and knew that something was wrong. She hurriedly gave her a look and spoke in a low voice to stop her. She's your husband? Xiao was stunned and almost spat out. When did little Xing get a wife? However, Xiao felt that the girl's voice sounded a little familiar. He didn't care that she called him a scumbag. He carefully looked at her and realized that he didn't recognize her at all. Xiao thought for a moment, and suddenly a figure flashed in his mind. Wasn't this Ling Qinshue's voice? How did she get together with that chick Xing? Could it be that the two of them were still lesbians? Alright. Xiao remembered that when Xing Biao came to the research institute to steal information, she had asked for Sakeshima Kishio's help. Presumably, they had some sort of connection. Perhaps it was because of this that the two of them worked together to set up such a nondescript breakfast stall. After understanding the key points, Xiao was speechless. He ran to the morning market to sell fried dough sticks, but that was because he was forced by life to make money. However, if these two girls in front of him just wanted to keep an eye on him, they would not hesitate to stand here from dawn to dusk like idiots. That would be too much of a prank. Ling Qinshue's shout caused Xing Biao to calm down. She carefully thought for a moment and realized that she really couldn't argue with Xiao. If they fought, her strength would be exposed. What would she do if she was recognized? Thinking of this, Xing Biao felt a little helpless. She could only pretend to be tough and said, "So what if I'm her husband? If you have the ability, go and marry one too. You don't need to worry about that. I may lack other things, but I don't lack a wife." Xiao looked at Ling Qinshu and said to Xing Biao like a ruffian, "You sissy, are you trying to change the topic? What, you don't want to pay up?" Hearing Xiao words, Xing Biao couldn't help but be shocked. Luckily it wasn't a lady boy. Then her disguise should be able to fool this guy. Although she was a little unwilling, she still gritted her teeth and took out $1,000. Slapping it on the table, she said, "Take it. Tell your friend to be more well-behaved in the future and don't cause trouble for us. Otherwise, I'll beat her to death next time." "Oh, if you like it, then beat her to death." Xiao shrugged indifferently. He picked up the money on the table and counted it. He frowned and said, "That's not right. Why is it so little? Are you messing with me?" "How am I messing with you? How is this money not right?" Xing Biao finally got angry. She glared at Xiao. "Is this guy not done yet? You damn Xiao. Don't think that just because you helped me once, you can take a mile after being given an inch. If it wasn't for the mission, I would definitely beat you up. Didn't I say it's more than 1,000? There's only 1,000 here. Where's the rest of the money?" Xiao took the money and patted it in his hand. With a face full of disbelief, he said, "I used to be a top student. Don't try to trick me." "Alright, I'll give you another $500. Is that okay?" Xing Biao suppressed her anger and took out another $500. She stared angrily at Xiao. Her chest was heaving up and down. One look and it was obvious that she was furious. Xing Biao really didn't expect Xiao to be so shameless. She thought that those gangsters were already too much. In the end, Xiao was even more unreasonable than them. He was even calculative about $500. If she knew this would happen, she would have taught him a lesson back then. "Of course not. I already saw that there's so much money in your pocket. It must have been given to you by them just now. These two people owed me money first. Even if they want to pay me back, there should be a first-come, first-served basis, right? You have to give me all of that first." Xiao pointed at Xing Biao's pocket and reached out for the money. He didn't expect his fingertips to be so close to Xing Biao that he accidentally touched something soft. You. Xing Biao's face instantly turned red. She shrank back a little. She wanted to scold Xiao for being a pervert, but when the words reached her mouth, she suddenly realized that something was wrong. She quickly swallowed them back down. She could only stare at him fiercely. She wanted to skin him alive. This was already the second time. Was Xiao doing it on purpose? Could it be that his identity had been exposed? Was that why he used such a despicable method to expose her identity? However, this time Xing Biao wrongly accused Xiao. Her fingers touched because she was so angry that her chest was heaving up and down. And Xiao subconsciously retracted his hand. His fingers secretly rubbed against it. TSK, it felt pretty good. Are you done yet?" Seeing Miss Xing's face turn red and speechless, Ling Qinshu hurriedly walked over. With a face full of disdain, she said, "You're a man, yet you're fussing over a few $1,000s. Do you have any prospects? I think people like you are destined to sell breakfast for the rest of your life." At this time, Ling Qinshu's impression of Xiao had already plummeted. In the past, she still had some respect for him. Now she hated him to the extreme. She didn't expect that after he fell, he would act like a ruffian. He only knew how to haggle over every ounce. Where did he look like the leader of a demon sect? He was simply a stray dog that would bite whoever he caught. I'm happy to sell breakfast for the rest of my life. What can you do about it? Xiaoqun retracted his hand and glared at Ling Qianxue. His face and neck were red as he shouted, "What? You still want to fight? Fine. Bring it on." Ling Qianxue opened her mouth and was speechless. She felt helpless in her heart. She had never seen such a scene before. It was like a scholar meeting a soldier. She couldn't reason with him. Even if she really wanted to fight, she couldn't beat Xiaoqun. In her depression, she could only roll her eyes and angrily turn her head to the side. "Fine. Here. I'll give it all to you. Is that okay?" Little Miss Xing regained her senses. Seeing that Ling Qianxue had also lost, she really didn't want to be entangled with Xiaoqun any longer. She simply took out all the money that the squinted skinny man had given her and handed it to Xiaoqun. She waved her hand dispiritedly and said, "Are you satisfied? Take the money and scram. Don't interfere with my business." "Are you stupid? You beat my friend up like this. Shouldn't you pay some medical fees?" Xiaoqun was a little surprised by little Miss Xing's forbearance. He planned to add fuel to the fire and loudly scolded. The squinted skinny man and the tall man behind him were about to cry. How touching. This hero actually remembered to ask for medical fees for us. What a warm-hearted and chivalrous person. Fine. You win. Little Miss Xing was so angry that her whole body trembled. She closed her eyes and directly took out the remaining $10,000 on her. Take it. Take it all. Xiaoqun took the money and casually stuffed it into his pocket. Then he frowned and pointed at the breakfast on the table. He unhurriedly said, "Also, give me 10 portions of these meat buns, pancakes, and porridge for free. I spent so much time talking nonsense with you guys. I'm hungry." The squinted skinny man and the tall man really cried this time. "Hero, didn't you say you would give us medical fees? Why did you put it in your pocket? Is there even a share for us?" Little Miss Xing originally thought that this was the end of the matter. After hearing Xiaoqun's rambling, she almost went crazy. Are you a pig? Can you finish all this by yourself? Why are you asking so many questions? Even if I can't finish it, I can still feed it to the dogs." Xiaoqun casually picked up a steaming meat bun and stuffed it into his mouth. He also took 2 unsteamed buns and stuffed them into the mouths of the hooligans behind him. The 2 hooligans wanted to cry, but they didn't dare to spit them out. They could only bite the dough in their mouths with twisted expressions. Xiaoqun ate the meat bun while shaking his legs. "Stop talking nonsense. Hurry up and pack it up for me," he thought to himself. "I don't believe that you can still endure such ruthless humiliation. Pack it up for him. Give everything to him." Little Miss Xing took 2 steps back and held her forehead. She felt a splitting headache and couldn't think normally. She could only wave her hand and ask the stall owner to pack up the pastries. She estimated that if she continued to tangle with Xiaoqun, she would very likely vomit blood. After taking the 2 big bags of pastries from the stall owner, Xiaoqun's face was full of satisfaction. Little Miss Xing and Ling Qianxue, on the other hand, felt exhausted. They didn't expect Xiaoqun to be so difficult to deal with. It was even more troublesome than fighting with cultivators of the same level. Chapter 874. Although the stall owner obediently packed the pastries, he was confused in his heart. Weren't these 2 bosses very powerful just now? Why did they admit defeat when someone else came? Also, they didn't make a move and just swallowed their anger. It looked like it was a taboo. The 2 punks were even more dumbfounded. They didn't understand what was going on. When they were beating them just now, they were so ruthless. But when they saw this Youqiao seller, they became cowards. They were hoping that both sides would fight each other and both sides would suffer. But the result was completely one-sided. Could it be that this Youqiao seller was more powerful than the couple? Or could it be that he had something on them so they could only listen to him? Yes. Thinking about it, it made sense. Otherwise, they couldn't find any other reason. The squinted skinny guy rolled his eyes and had an idea. Looks like in the future, as long as I use the Youqiao seller's name, I can extort money from this couple at any time. They can easily take out more than 10,000 yuan. Looks like they have a lot of money. Carrying the food, Xiaoqun couldn't think of anything else, so he turned around and walked back to his stall. As he turned around, Xiaoqun sneered. There was something wrong with these 2 girls, and it was a big problem. Teasing them like this, yet they could hold back and not explode. They must have some ulterior motive. Looks like I can extort money from them from time to time in the future. My living expenses will also be settled. Alright, I can eat buns and youtiao for free. They really are the perfect example of providing help in times of need. Plus, these two girls don't fight back. If that's the case, then you two can bear it if you want. Maybe this Xing chick is preparing to learn to be a ninja from Ling Qianxue? There's a knife on top of the word, endure. Let me sharpen it. Shall we? What are you giggling about? Why did you go to the washroom for so long? Did you go to find Kerlin again? Seeing Xiaoqun come back with 2 big bags of food with a silly smile on his face, Qing Minjing was a little angry. She put her hands on her waist and asked, "You know we don't have money right now. Why did you buy so much food? Aren't you poor enough?" Xiaoqun froze when he heard the name Lil. He subconsciously turned his head and looked around but didn't see anyone else. He then realized that this was the nickname Qing Minjing gave him. With a chuckle, Xiaoqun explained, "There are many people in the toilet, so we have to queue up. As for these noodles, they were given to me for free by the 2 silly girls. I didn't spend a single cent." Silly girl? Tell me clearly who gave it to me. Why didn't he give it to anyone else but you? Qing Minjing frowned, but then she remembered that she was in charge of the income from the stall. Xiaoqun didn't have much money on him at all. It wasn't enough to buy so many things. "Oh, it's from the stall across the street." Xiaoqun pointed at Xing's stall and happened to see her glaring at him with a pair of fiery eyes. He made a V sign with his hand and then explained what had happened. "Ah, then wouldn't our identities be exposed?" Qing Minjing exclaimed, then frowned and muttered, "It feels weird to be stared at like this every day. Xiaoqun, why don't we set up our stall somewhere else?" Qing Minjing was indeed a little worried. She didn't think that someone would find them so quickly, and they even set up a stall across the street. Although they didn't come looking for trouble, the feeling of being watched was still uncomfortable. And if it was so easy to find them, didn't that mean that Ma Baoqiao could also find them quickly? It's okay, they can stay there if they like. Not only will we have free breakfast in the future, but we can also scam them when we run out of money. That's pretty good. Xiaoqun waved his hand nonchalantly, then took out a big stack of money from his pocket and handed it to Qing Minjing. He continued to fry the dough sticks. But what was different from the past was that although Qing Minjing took the thick stack of money, she didn't feel happy because of it. She would still sneak a glance across from time to time with a complicated expression. There was an indescribable strange feeling in her heart. Although the 2 people didn't have any hostility, when she thought that someone was watching them not far away, Qing Minjing still felt a little uncomfortable. But she couldn't think of a solution, so she could only quietly sell the dough sticks. After Kerlin went back, she was a little absent-minded for a few days. She didn't know why, but ever since she went to the newly opened Tang breakfast shop, she began to worry about Xiaoqun. She didn't know where he went and why he disappeared for so long. On the weekend, Lu Shuangshuang asked Kerlin to go shopping. It just so happened that Kerlin was also planning to buy some clothes for the season. Look at this dress. Do I look beautiful in it?" Lu Shuangshuang was holding a blue dress from a stall. She kept comparing it in the mirror and asked with a smile. Although Grandma Lu's illness was cured and there was no need to worry about medical expenses, Lu Shuangshuang didn't like to spend money extravagantly. She even considered Kerlin's feelings and didn't even drive her Land Rover. Anyway, she felt that Xiaoqun liked her wearing the clothes from a stall. She didn't need to show it to others. "Oh, not bad. It looks good," Kerlin said casually, but her attention didn't seem to be on the clothes. Instead, she was thinking about something. "What about this one? Compared to the blue one, which one is more suitable?" Lu Shuangshuang picked up a yellow dress and compared it to her body. Not bad. Both look good," Kerlin said casually, but her eyes were staring into the distance. Her eyes were blank and her hands were mechanically picking the clothes. "Is that so? But I like both of them very much. Which one should I buy?" Lu Shuangshuang mumbled to herself, noticing that Lin Ke seemed to be preoccupied with something else. Lu Shuangshuang picked out another dress and pretended to be happy. She said to Kerlin, "Okay. Then let's buy this one. What do you think, Ke?" "Sure. If you like it, then buy it," Kerlin replied first. Then she came back to her senses. She saw that Lu Shuangshuang was holding a man's dress in her hand. She couldn't help but wonder, "Shuangshuang, the dress in your hand looks like it's a man's dress? You just realized? What were you thinking just now? You were so preoccupied. You didn't even notice what clothes I was holding. Are you having some lovesickness?" Lu Shuangshuang frowned and asked. Just now, she deliberately used the men's dress to test Kerlin's reaction. In the end, Kerlin didn't realize it and didn't react in time. What are you talking about? I was just thinking about Xiao Qin. No. I don't know how to say it. Anyway, it's not what you think. Kerlin explained weakly. Her face was full of depression. She wanted to talk about her recent experience, but in the end she blurted out Xiao Chen's name. Even she didn't know why. Ah, you're still saying it's not lovesickness. You keep mentioning Xiao Chen's name. I think you must want to see him, right? Lu Shuangshuang laughed. She used her elbow to gently nudge Kerlin. She blinked her eyes and teased mischievously. No, nothing. It's just that there's a new fried dough stick seller in the morning market. It's in the place where our house used to be. Moreover, it's all the equipment that Xiao Qin used to use. That's why I thought of him. Kerlin quickly explained. Really? Why don't I believe you? Lu Shuangshuang teased with a faint smile. Kerlin blushed. She gently punched Lu Shuangshuang. Then she suddenly thought of something. She asked thoughtfully, "That's right, Shuangshuang. Didn't you ask Xiao Qin to help you buy a rice transplanter and a harvester last time? Do you know anything about him recently?" Lu Shuangshuang was stunned. She quickly waved her hand to cover it up. "I don't know. I haven't seen Xiao Qin for a long time. He's probably very busy. After all, he's the young master of a big family. Why would he have time to fool around with us?" "You're right." Kerlin didn't notice Lu Shuangshuang's abnormality. She looked a little disappointed. She wasn't in the mood to choose clothes anymore. She just casually strolled along the street. Lu Shuangshuang saw that Kerlin didn't ask further. She was instantly relieved. Kerlin didn't know about her relationship with Xiao Qin. She didn't plan to say it for the time being. She was afraid that if Kerlin knew about it, she might not be friends with her anymore. Those TV shows and movies were not rare. Originally, two very good friends, but in the end, because of the same man, they became jealous and finally, the two of them became enemies. Even in reality, there were many such examples. It should be known that in the beginning, Xiao Qin was Kerlin's boyfriend. Although Kerlin didn't admit it and Xiao Qin didn't mention it, Lu Shuangshuang could tell with her woman's intuition that there must be some problems between the two. Now that she saw Kerlin's sad look, Lu Shuangshuang was even more certain that she and Xiao Qin had an ambiguous relationship. Maybe they had already done it. In this case, Lu Shuangshuang didn't dare to lay her cards on the table with Kerlin in this situation. Although she felt a little uneasy, she really didn't know where Xiao Qin was. Even if she wanted to say it, she couldn't. Both of them had their own thoughts in mind. They chatted from time to time and came to the morning market street. Before they knew it, they walked to Xiao Qin's stall. Coincidentally, Kerlin also felt a little hungry. She stopped and asked, "Shuangshuang, are you hungry? Let's eat something?" On the weekend, Xiao Qin opened his stall all day long, just like when Tang Tang was here. The morning market street was also open all day long. But it was already past breakfast time, so there weren't too many people. There were still many empty tables on the side. "Okay, my legs are a little sore. Let's eat something simple." Lu Shuangshuang nodded. She rubbed her sore legs and sat down. Since she got a car, Lu Shuangshuang always chose to drive when she went to the warrior guild to sell things. On the one hand, she could put a lot of goods in the trunk, and on the other hand, she could save time on the road. But her physical strength was much lower than before, and she was tired after a short walk. Just when she sat down, Lu Shuangshuang suddenly stood up and stared at the stall. Chapter 875. She didn't know why, but she vaguely felt that the back of the Youqiao stall owner was a little familiar. It seemed to be Xiao Qin. Lu Shuangshuang's heart skipped a beat. She quickly ran over to take a look, but found that the stall owner was an unfamiliar face. Now she was a little puzzled. This person's figure and movements were quite similar to Xiao Qin's, but he looked older. His appearance was completely different from Xiao Qin's. "Little girl, what do you want to eat?" Xiao Qin noticed that someone was staring at him, so he looked up and couldn't help but be surprised. Why was Lu Shuangshuang here? Kerlin was also here. What was going on? However, Xiao Qin could only pretend that he didn't know her. He was on the run now. It wouldn't be good if he caused trouble for Lu Shuangshuang. "I want 2 youqiao, 2 fried cakes and 2 bowls of tofu pudding." Lu Shuangshuang casually ordered some food, then turned around and walked back in disappointment. She found that not only did the youqiao stall owner look ordinary, but even his voice was very unpleasant. It was a world of difference from Xiao Qin. "I say, Xiao Yi, I didn't think that you would be so popular with women with this appearance. Not only does Kerlin like you, but even the beautiful girl next to her also specially ran over and stared at you. I think you can be called a girl killer. Cheng Minjing snorted coldly. Cheng Minjing's intuition told her that Lu Shuangshuang seemed to have some relationship with Xiao Chen. Otherwise, she wouldn't be so curious and specially ran over to take a look. If she wasn't Kerlin's friend, then so be it. Since she knew Kerlin, then it was very likely that she also knew Xiao Chen. What girl killer? I can't even kill my mistress now. Miss, you're thinking too much. Xiao Chen smiled bitterly and shook his head. He first took the food that Lu Shuangshuang ordered, then quickly returned and continued to fry the youtiao. He was also afraid that Lu Shuangshuang would notice something. After all, she was closer to him, unlike Kerlin. I have told you several times, don't call me Missy, call me Yao Yao. Cheng Minjing complained very discontentedly. Xiao Chen was really something, how could he still call her Missy? In such a dangerous situation, couldn't they learn from their mistakes? Alright. Miss Yao Yao, Xiao Chen teased with a smile. You're pissing me off. Cheng Minjing glared at Xiao Chen and was too lazy to argue with him anymore. Since you like to call me that, then do as you please. Let's see what you can do when someone sees through you. Lu Shuangshuang, who was eating the youtiao, glanced at Xiao Chen from the corner of her eyes. Seeing them flirting, she increasingly felt that this stall owner's figure was similar to Xiao Chen, but his face and voice were different. However, Lu Shuangshuang and Kerlin were different. She knew that Xiao Chen knew how to disguise himself. Didn't Xiao Chen appear with Xiao Chang and Yang Jianan's faces before? So although his appearance was different, maybe it was also a disguise? Shuang. The tofu pudding in your bowl is gone, why are you still scratching? If you like it, ask the stall owner to give you another bowl. Looking at Lu Shuangshuang's confused expression, holding the spoon and continuously scooping the empty bowl into her mouth, Kerlin felt that it was a little funny. Ah. Lu Shuangshuang was called twice before she woke up. Seeing the empty bowl in front of her, her face instantly turned red. Seeing this, Kerlin was a little curious. What were you thinking about just now? You didn't even know when you finished eating. No, nothing. I just think that the tofu pudding and youtiao in this shop are quite delicious, so I want to pack one for my grandma to try when I go back. Lu Shuangshuang quickly shook her head, then suddenly had an idea. She thought of a reason and said with some embarrassment. Yeah, I think that the owner's cooking is similar to Xiao Chen's. The youtiao that he fried is so delicious. Kerlin didn't suspect anything and nodded in agreement. Kuer, you just mentioned Xiao Chen's name again? Lu Shuangshuang teased, feeling that she seemed to have turned the tables. You. Kerlin's face turned red, and she glared at Lu Shuangshuang. She stood up to pay the bill. I'm not talking to you anymore, I'm going to pay the bill. I'll go back with you later. I haven't seen Grandma for a long time, and I can take the opportunity to see her. Let me do it. Lu Shuangshuang pressed Kerlin on the seat, took out her wallet and ran in front of Xiao Chen. She said, Boss, help me pack a tofu pudding and 2 youtiao. Oh yeah, give me 2 pieces of that fried cake too. Okay, wait a moment. Xiao Chen nodded and quickly packed up the food. Then he casually said to Cheng Minjing, Yao Yao, help this little girl pay the bill. Oh, got it. When Cheng Minjing heard Xiao Chen call out the nickname Yao Yao, she was indescribably happy. It seemed that this guy didn't talk nonsense in front of outsiders. She said to Lu Shuangshuang with a pleasant expression, That's a total of 15 yuan. Lu Shuangshuang said, Oh. She took out the money. Just as Cheng Minjing was about to take it, Lu Shuangshuang turned around and directly stuffed the money into Xiao Chen's hand. Cheng Minjing still hadn't reacted. Her expression was a little dazed. Lu Shuangshuang picked up the packed food. She didn't forget to seriously look at Xiao Chen a few times. Only then did she leave with Kerlin. Xiao Chen was a little helpless. He was wondering if Lu Shuangshuang had seen through his disguise. The small action of stuffing money into Lu Shuangshuang's hand seemed to be a hint. It seemed that he had to be more careful in the future. Why are you in a daze with that sneaky face of yours? Do you know her? What did she want to do just now? Cheng Minjing pulled Xiao Chen's sleeve and asked. Cheng Minjing was really puzzled. She had already stretched out her hand, but Lu Shuangshuang purposely handed the money to Xiao Chen. It was really strange to say that there was no problem. Yes, I do know her. When I went to the warrior guild to accept a mission, I bought a pair of binoculars from her. Later I found out that she is Kerlin's friend. Her name is Lu Shuangshuang. Xiao Chen didn't deny it. After all, Lu Shuangshuang's behavior was too obvious. That was why it aroused Cheng Minjing's suspicion. It was useless even if he quibbled. It can't be that simple, right? I think that Lu Shuangshuang seems to have recognized you. Tell me, what's your relationship with her? Qing Minjing asked maliciously. Why don't you guess? If you can guess correctly, I will reward you with a youtiao. Xiao Qin picked up the youtiao that had just been fried. I don't want it. Look at your sneaky face, it's definitely not a good relationship. Qing Minjing snorted and turned her face away. That's great. I can save another youtiao. Xiao Qin didn't refute. In order to prevent Qing Minjing from thinking too much, he lowered his head and concentrated on his work. Qing Minjing wanted to ask a few more questions. However, it was almost noon and there were more customers. She had no choice but to immerse herself in her work. Songning City, in a private room of a restaurant. A guy with a head full of red hair, wearing a bright red trench coat, a large gold chain around his neck, and a shiny gold watch on his wrist sat on the sofa in high spirits with a cigar in his mouth. Beside him were two expressionless young men in black suits. One of them had a calm expression, while the other was a little impatient. From time to time he would use his fingers to tap on the table. It seemed like he was waiting for someone. Brother Red Hair. You're finally back. The door of the private room was suddenly pushed open. A figure walked in. If Xiao Qin or Miss Xing were here, they would definitely recognize the person. It was the squinted skinny guy that was beaten up by the two of them. However, the tall man wasn't here. He was alone. They were the underlings of Red Hair. Red Hair had just returned to Songning City and summoned the two of them. When the squinted skinny guy received the news, it was as if he had met his savior. He quickly ran over. The two of them were beaten up like dogs in the morning market. Naturally, they had to find their boss for help. Shouji, what took you so long? Where's little Gao? Don't you see me as your boss anymore? Red Hair was a little unhappy. Shouji was the squinted skinny guy's name. However, because it wasn't very auspicious, he was usually called Skinny. As for little Gao, he was the tall man. I'm innocent, Brother Red Hair. We don't have time to play. We're all in the hospital. I heard that Brother Red Hair came, so I rushed out of the hospital. The squinted skinny guy cried. Hospital? Then why are you the only one here? Is little Gao's injury very serious? Red Hair frowned. He did hear the squinted skinny guy talk about being beaten up on the phone. However, it wasn't clear in a few words. He thought he had already recovered. So, don't talk about it. His old injury hasn't healed yet, but he was beaten up by a little girl who set up a stall in the morning market. That's miserable. He's still recuperating in the hospital, but he should be discharged tomorrow. I'm slightly better than him, so I can come over to greet you. The squinted skinny guy sighed helplessly. *CK. That little girl is that powerful? Red Hair slammed the table. He was confused and angry. What's going on? I've only been away for a few days. How did a bunch of powerful people suddenly appear on the morning market? Didn't that guy named Xiao Qin leave a long time ago? Oh, that little girl isn't that powerful. The powerful one is a guy who sells fried dough sticks. But that girl's punches and kicks are also very powerful. But the most powerful one is still the one who sells fried dough sticks. The squinted skinny guy wanted to explain, but he felt that it was getting more and more confusing. Stop. Tell me from the beginning. Red Hair was confused and immediately interrupted. Brother Red Hair, this is what happened. The squinted skinny guy took a deep breath and explained his recent experience in detail. What? What does the guy who sells fried dough sticks look like? Is his name Xiao Qin? After listening to the squinted skinny guy's story, Red Hair was shocked. He almost spat out the cigar in his mouth. He remembered that the squinted skinny guy had never seen Xiao Qin before, so he quickly described Xiao Qin's appearance. Red Hair couldn't help but be afraid. After all, he had suffered a lot in the hands of Xiao Qin. Many of his backers were no match for him. If he hadn't followed Xie Qin and got to know his current backer, Yakashima Kishio, he would probably have to return to the morning market to collect protection fees again. Therefore, whenever Red Hair heard the name of the person who sells fried dough sticks or Xiao Qin, he would involuntarily shiver. It was too scary. Chapter 876. I don't know his full name, but I think his nickname is something like Xiao Yi and he doesn't look right, said the skinny guy after some thought. That's good as long as it's not Xiao Qin. Red Hair let out a sigh of relief. He was no longer nervous and leaned back on the sofa. He pointed at the two men in black suits and introduced them. These two are ninja masters from Japan. They're very strong, equivalent to a stage 5 inner force martial artist. It'll be a piece of cake for them to deal with that girl and the Youtiao guy. Red Hair didn't know much about practitioners. He thought that stage 5 inner force was already very strong, which was why he was so confident and fearless. These two masters are martial artists. Nice to meet you, brother. Nice to meet you. The skinny guy looked at them with admiration. He was even worse than Red Hair. He didn't even know what a martial artist was. All he knew was that they were much stronger than ordinary people. Since there were martial artists helping him, he didn't have to be afraid anymore. The bun girl only knew a little martial arts. As for the Yochiao guy, he only had a bit more strength. How could he be compared to a martial artist? At the thought of this, the squinted skinny man was so excited that he even straightened his back. Which am not bad. How about this? I'll bring 2 masters with me tomorrow to help you get revenge. It's getting late now. Let's eat first and then we'll go to the dreamland to have some fun later. We'll also find a few young models to welcome the 2 experts. The red-haired man waved his hand and said straightforwardly. Ever since he started following Yorishima Kishio, Red Hair had secretly earned quite a lot of money. Gradually, he felt that he had stepped into the upper class of the mafia society. The way he did things also began to move in the direction that he thought was classy. Alright, I'll listen to Big Brother Red Hair. The squint-eyed skinny man nodded like he was pounding garlic. He was so happy that flowers were about to bloom. He thought to himself that he did not follow the wrong boss. The tall man did not come today. It was a big loss. After everyone drank and toasted to their heart's content, they drove to the dreamland of Wonderland and played until late at night before returning home. The next morning, Red Hair and Skinny swaggered to the morning market street. The skinny man originally wanted to find trouble with fried dough sticks first, but after a few steps he felt that the girl was easier to deal with. He was going to use this easygoing person as a practice target. That's them. The squint-eyed skinny man came to Miss Xing's stall and sneered, Big Brother Red Hair, Little Gao and I were injured by this couple. They even robbed us of the tens of thousands of dollars that we've been collecting these days. The squinting skinny man was prepared to demand an exorbitant price. Since the couple would be beaten up by their boss, they had to hand it over no matter how much they demanded. Alright, got it. Red Hair snapped his fingers and swaggered over. With a bang, he kicked the entire stall over. The pancakes and meat buns were scattered all over the floor. The pot of porridge on the side also splashed all over Xing Chenxue and Ling Chenxue. The stall owner who was working saw that the situation wasn't good and immediately ran away. These people were obviously here to cause trouble. There was no need for him to get involved. He didn't know if the couple could control them. If he got implicated and got beaten up, he would be in trouble. Red Hair's target today was Miss Xing Chenxue and her husband. Thus, the stall owner was too lazy to chase after them. He crossed his arms and leisurely stood in front of his stall. Are you crazy? Do you want to die? Miss Xing, who was caught off guard and was splashed all over, roared angrily. Watch your mouth. Our Big Brother Red Hair isn't someone you can mess with. The squint-eyed skinny man immediately stood up and shouted with his nose in the air. Miss Xing saw the squint-eyed skinny man and tall man standing behind Red Hair. Only then did she understand that they were here to cause trouble. She couldn't help but get angry. It's you 2 bastards again. If I knew earlier I would've let my wife beat you to death. This has nothing to do with you. Scram. At this time, one of the ninjas behind Red Hair stood up and pushed Miss Xing away, causing her to stumble. The other one walked in front of Ling Chenxue and sized her up. With a smile that didn't reach his eyes, he said, Hee hee little girl, you're quite pretty. I heard that you're quite good at fighting. Today I'm here to experience it for myself. You. Ling Chenxue didn't react at first. When the 2 ninjas jumped out, she was instantly dumbfounded. There was no other reason than that these 2 ninjas were her subordinates. Their status in the Cherry Blossom group was much lower than hers. Everyone who saw her had to greet her respectfully. Now they even dared to tease her. Although Ling Chenxue was furious, she didn't dare to act rashly. If Xiao Chen saw through her and ruined young Master Xing's plan, all her previous efforts would be wasted. Miss Xing was also fuming. She was already on the verge of exploding from the push. She couldn't be bothered to care about the consequences. She was prepared to beat them all to death. Even if she was discovered by Xiao Chen, she could think of other ways to keep an eye on her. These flies in front of her, however, were driving her to the limit. Hubby. Don't be angry. Let me talk to them. Ling Chenxue saw that Miss Xing's mood wasn't right. She hurriedly gave her a look and stopped her. Although she didn't know Miss Xing's true strength, dealing with 2 stage 5 inner force martial artists was definitely not a problem. However, These two martial artists were considered talents that the Cherry Blossom group had painstakingly cultivated. Although they were a little stupid, it was better to let them live. Seeing that Ling Qianxue was begging, Miss Xing could only snort and suppress the anger in her heart. She walked to the side and picked up a cloth to wipe the soup that splashed on her body. Seeing that Miss Xing had given her face, Ling Qianxue heaved a sigh of relief. She said to the two ninjas coldly, "There are too many people here. It's not convenient to fight. Follow me." "Beauty, are you going to get a room with us? So proactive? Can't wait any longer?" One of the ninjas teased with an evil smile. Ling Qianxue was so angry that she wanted to give him a kick. However, she endured it and didn't say much. She turned around and walked towards the direction of her hotel with a sullen face. Seeing that there was a chance, Red Hair hurriedly followed. This girl's looks weren't bad. He thought that he might be able to have a go at her first. Thinking of this, his lower abdomen suddenly became restless and he subconsciously licked his lips. Seeing this, the squinted skinny guy and the tall guy looked at each other and followed. They wanted to see what Ling Qianxue was going to do. If it was possible, they could at least drink some soup while their boss ate the meat, right? Arriving at the door of the room, Ling Qianxue pointed at the two ninjas and said coldly, "You two come in with me. Everyone else, wait outside. Don't look for trouble." "Wait. I say, miss, I was the one who found them. How can they go in but I can't? Since you're going to be played by us, it doesn't matter if it's 3 or 4 batches, isn't it the same?" Red Hair came over and said shamelessly. "If you're not afraid of death, then come in." Ling Qianxue didn't even look at Red Hair. She directly opened the door and walked in without turning her head. "You two wait outside. After we're done, I'll let you have a taste of this girl." Red Hair excitedly patted the shoulders of the skinny guy and the others. He shook his head and walked in with the two ninjas. He didn't forget to lock the door. After locking the door, Red Hair clenched his fist and turned around excitedly. "Pa, pa." Before he could completely turn around, he saw Ling Qianxue give the two ninjas a slap each. Red Hair was puzzled. Wasn't this girl a little too fierce? She still dared to hit people in such a situation? In the end, Ling Qianxue suddenly spoke. "Waka. You even dare to take liberties with me. Do you want to die?" Ling Qianxue angrily scolded. She used Japanese and returned to her original voice. The two ninjas were instantly stunned. What was going on? One of them reacted first. He felt that the voice was a little familiar. It seemed to be Ling Qianxue's voice. At that moment, his face turned pale and he immediately knelt down. The other ninja also felt that something was wrong. He suddenly remembered who the owner of the voice was. Suddenly, his legs softened and he knelt down on the ground. He didn't dare to raise his head and his whole body was trembling. "Did the two of you come to Songning City because of Master Yakujima's order? Or did you act on your own? Tell me honestly." Ling Qianxue didn't choose to forgive them because of their actions. She still had a pretty face and stared at the two ninjas kneeling on the ground. She asked in a cold tone, Master Qianxue, we were wrong. Red Hair is very familiar with us. That's why we stood up for him. I hope Master Qianxue can forgive us. Don't tell Master Yakujima about this." One of the older ninjas forced himself to calm down and reported respectfully. "It's fine if you don't tell him, but you know the rules of the organization. Do you want to do it yourself or do you want me to do it for you?" Ling Qianxue's face was cold and she asked condescendingly. There was no emotion in her voice. We will do it ourselves." The older ninja knew that today's matter couldn't be resolved peacefully. He gritted his teeth and took out a piece of white cloth from his arms and spread it on the ground. Then he pulled out the short sword with his right hand and placed his left hand flat on the cloth. He raised the sword and cut off his little finger cleanly. The other ninja hesitated for a moment and then followed suit with a bitter face. The whole process was so painful that his face was sweating profusely, but he didn't even dare to make a sound. Although the two of them felt very helpless, they didn't dare to complain. This was already the smallest punishment. If this matter was really spread to Yakujima Kikuo, they were afraid that it wouldn't be as simple as cutting off their fingers. Ling Qianxue snorted coldly and raised her eyes. Her cold eyes fell on Red Hair, who was stunned at the door and couldn't move. Master Qianxue, I also know I was wrong. Please let me go. I promise there won't be a next time." Red Hair felt like a bucket of ice water was poured from head to toe when Ling Qianxue looked at him. He suddenly knelt down and begged for mercy. Chapter 877. Although he had never seen Ling Qianxue before, he knew that there was such a person in the Sakura group. He just didn't expect to bump into her here. He was really unlucky. You guys have the nerve to stand up for this kind of trash? It's so embarrassing. After this is over, you guys can go apologize to Yakajima-sama yourselves. Ling Chinshua said expressionlessly as she looked away. Well, okay. The two ninjas could only nod helplessly. It seemed that cutting off the fingers could only appease Ling Chinshua's anger. As for how to deal with this matter, they had to wait for Yorishima Kikuo's decision. Your name is Red Hair, right? Ling Chinshua finally looked at Red Hair again and waved her hand impatiently. This is none of your business. I'll let you go for Yakajima-sama's sake. Otherwise, don't even think about leaving here alive. Hurry up and get lost. Yes. Red Hair wanted to stand up, but his legs turned to jelly and he almost knelt down again. With great difficulty, he held his leg and stood up straight. He wiped the cold sweat off his forehead, opened the door and ran out while trembling. Red Hair was very depressed. He wondered if he was the bane of his existence. The backer that he had spent so much effort to invite was gone again. The two men who were waiting outside heard the door open and saw Red Hair walking out, sweating profusely. They thought that their boss was done, so they quickly greeted him and asked eagerly, "Big brother, how was that girl's skill in bed? Isn't it our turn?" Looking at the two who didn't know the truth, Red Hair opened his mouth, but he was too embarrassed to say that he had lost his backer again. He could only walk out and pretended to say, "Go in my A**s. The two ninjas are still having sex with the girl. Let's go first. Come back later when they're done." Red Hair's heart was bleeding. He couldn't say such a shameful truth even if he died. Now he could only think of a way to fool these two underlings. At most he would find two more young models and reward them. Oh. The squinted skinny man believed him and nodded heavily. He gave a thumbs up and complimented, "Those two martial artists are really powerful. They can even handle such a violent girl so easily. They are indeed masters." After leaving the hotel, the three of them did not know what to do and could only stand by the roadside in a daze. "Big brother Redfur, I remember now. That Yochiao seller cheated us of a lot of money before. Moreover, he even broke my hand. How about, we go and teach him a lesson?" The tall man suddenly had an idea and suggested. Since he had already dealt with the pretty girl, he might as well take the opportunity to deal with the Yochiao seller. Big brother was indeed big brother. Once he made a move, he solved everything. "Of course. Let's go. Let's take a taxi." Red Hair immediately agreed. He was feeling depressed and had to find someone to vent his anger on. Once again returning to the morning market street, Redfur learned his lesson and didn't directly walk towards Xiao Chen's stall. Instead, he first stood in the distance and carefully observed for a while. After confirming that the couple selling Yochiao didn't know each other, he aggressively rushed over. Get lost. Redfur and the two delinquents behind him pushed and shoved to separate the queue. The people who were pushed wanted to curse, but when they saw that it was a famous local bully of the morning market street, they immediately lost their imposing manner. They suppressed their anger and dispersed to the side. Redfur arrived in front of Xiao Chen's stall and arrogantly pointed at him. "Hey, Yochiao seller, I heard from my brother that you seem pretty arrogant. Not only did you injure them for no reason, but you also publicly robbed them of their money. You actually dare to rob them in broad daylight? Do you not want to stay in the morning market street anymore? Why is it you again? Why are you looking for me? I think you won't feel comfortable unless you get beaten up. Is your skin itching again?" Xiao Chen was making breakfast well and was disturbed for no reason. He was immediately displeased. When Redfur flipped over Xing Lass's stall, Xiao Chen already noticed it. However, he was too lazy to care. He couldn't do anything to Xing Lass anyway. He didn't expect that after disappearing for a while, this group of people actually came to find trouble with him. F***ck, your mouth is pretty stubborn. Redfur glared at him. He rubbed the red hair on his head and angrily said, "Let me tell you. Hurry up and apologize to my brother. Then pay 80,000 to 80,000 yuan in medical fees and we'll let this matter go. Otherwise, when my two subordinates come later, they can easily peel off a layer of your skin. Let me tell you, they are all martial arts experts at the 5th stage of inner strength. How about it, are you afraid now?" Now that the two ninja experts weren't by his side, Redfur could only choose to intimidate. After all, he knew that Xiao Chen had some brute strength. If he fought recklessly, he might be at a disadvantage. He could only borrow the power of a martial artist to make the other party afraid. "Oh, then let them come." Xiao Chen waved his hand as if he was shooing away flies. He impatiently said, "Is there nothing else? If there's nothing else, then scram. Don't block the customers from buying things. *CK your mother, I think you are. I.O. Redfur wanted to use the same old trick and kick the stall away. However, just as he lifted his leg, Xiaoqin directly grabbed his hair and dragged him to a nearby corner. The two punks originally had their hands on their hips and were full of vigor. In the blink of an eye, when they saw Redfur being grabbed, they instantly became numb. They stared at each other and didn't know what to do. There was no other way. Both of them couldn't beat Xiaoqin. If they failed to save Redfur and got beaten up again, they might not even have the money to pay for his medical fees. What Xiaoqin hated the most was when people talked about his parents. Redhead had touched his reverse scale, so Xiaoqin didn't say anything else. He directly grabbed Redhead and gave him a round of punches and kicks. Redhead's eyes rolled back into his head. However, Xiaoqin was still conscious and didn't use his energy. Otherwise, if he accidentally beat Redfur to death, it wouldn't be good for him to stay on the morning market anymore. But, how dare you hit me? Redfur was very strong-willed at first. He kept cursing and threatening while covering his head to dodge. However, no matter how he dodged, he still suffered a few punches. His face was immediately swollen. Have you heard of Hero White Fox? He's my boss. Of course, I dare to hit you. As Xiaoqin spoke, his hands and feet didn't stop. His storm-like fists were still smashing at Redfur's body. Huh. Redfur was stunned. He stopped dodging. Did he hear wrongly? Did this guy just mention Hero White Fox? After coming back to his senses, Redfur nearly peed his pants. He was rather quick-witted. He immediately knelt down and begged for mercy. Don't hit me. Hero, spare me. I surrender. You really surrender? You don't want me to pay for your medical fees? Xiaoqin's fists were still waving in the air as he asked coldly. I really surrender. No. There's no need to pay, Hero. Redfur's tears and mucus flew everywhere. He must have forgotten to look at the almanac when he went out today. He had just knelt down for one and now he had to kneel down for another. Then tell me, where are the two warriors' underlings? What are they doing with the girl in the opposite stall? Don't even think about lying, or else I'll make you drink that pot of oil. Xiaoqin grabbed Redfur's hair and pointed at the pot of oil that was used to fry Youqiao not far away. He saw that the boiling hot oil was bubbling non-stop. It was very horrifying. They went to the hotel? Redfur shivered. He knew that Xiaoqin's underlings were ruthless and would definitely do what he said. So, he didn't dare to hide anything and told them what happened at the hotel. However, he tried to speak as softly as possible so that his underlings wouldn't hear. Alright, hand over all the money you have and get lost. Xiaoqin knew the situation and didn't want to argue with Redfur anymore. He thought to himself, that girl really is Ling Qianxue. I wasn't too sure before, but now I'm 100% sure. And I still have to pay? Isn't this still robbery? Redfur muttered weakly, but he still took out all his money. It was a thick stack that was estimated to be more than 20,000. Of course not. You bought a Youqiao from me, so it's natural for you to pay me. Xiaoqin took the money and said with a smile. Youqiao? I didn't buy Youqiao. Redfur subconsciously asked back. You'll have some soon. Xiaoqin threw a Youqiao into the pot and fried it. He then scooped it up and stuffed it into Redfur's mouth. Ouch! Being caught off guard, Redfur's mouth was instantly scalded and blistered. He wailed and spat out the Youqiao. He looked around in panic and scrambled to a nearby bucket that was used to wash the mop. He directly stuck his head into the bucket. The two hooligans were also dumbfounded. After they reacted, they quickly rushed over and wanted to help the red-haired man out of the bucket. However, the red-haired man refused to leave no matter what. The skinny man with squinted eyes was in a hurry. He informed the tall man and didn't care about anything else. He carried the red-haired man and the bucket to the hospital. Xiaoqin didn't care about them anymore. He was wondering what Xing Chik and Ling Qianshue's intentions were. It was really strange. They had been under surveillance for a few days, but there was no news. If they were to say that they were working for the horse centipede, right? It didn't seem like it. After all, it had been so long and Ma Dezhao hadn't come looking for trouble. If they weren't Ma Dezhao's underlings, then why did they target him? Right now he was down and out. He didn't have money or power, so there was nothing for him to do. Could it be that they saw that he was handsome, so they thought of ways to marry him and become his wife? Shaking his head, Xiaoqin felt his head hurt. He couldn't think of a reason, so he decided not to think anymore. He turned around and continued to fry Youqiao for the crowd that had gathered again. Lil, aren't you being too violent? That troublemaker, you can just beat him up. What if he dies when you shove the hot youtiao into his mouth? Qing Menjing frowned. She was a little puzzled. Xiaoqin wasn't this violent before. Why did he become so extreme recently? Was it because he was on tenterhooks every day so he wanted to vent his anger? Chapter 878. Oh, they came to buy youtiao so I sold it? What's there to be violent about? Besides, I fed him myself. Xiaoqin didn't mind. He took out the money and waved it, then naturally handed it to Qing Menjing. So, you should restrain yourself from now on. With our current situation, it's better to avoid trouble. It's better to be careful. Qing Menjing took the money and sighed helplessly. She didn't want to say anything else since Xiaoqin wouldn't listen to her. After applying some ointment in the hospital and receiving 2 tetanus shots, the blisters in Red Hair's mouth finally subsided a lot. Although it was painful, at least it didn't spread. Fortunately, his 2 subordinates sent him to the hospital in time. Otherwise, his mouth would have been rotting. Motherf *Ker, I'm so unlucky today. Looks like I need to find a girl to go to the fire. Ouch. Just as he stepped out of the hospital's side door, the red-haired man cursed as he walked. In a moment of carelessness, he was bumped into by a middle-aged man who was walking towards him. Although the middle-aged man was in a hurry, he still stopped for a moment. A young man behind him quickly ran over and helped Red Hair up. When the middle-aged man saw that Red Hair had stabilized himself, he asked indifferently, "Sorry, I didn't hurt you, right?" Although he was apologizing, his tone wasn't apologetic at all. F***CK. Are you F***King blind? How could you bump into me on such a wide road? Why don't you F***King die? The road is so wide, why don't you go and bump into a truck? Red Hair shook off the young man who was supporting him and pointed at the middle-aged man. Young man, don't be so sarcastic. I've already apologized to you. What else do you want? The middle-aged man frowned after being insulted, but he still spoke patiently. He still had something urgent to do and didn't have time to talk nonsense with Red Hair. After saying that, he planned to walk past Red Hair and leave. Stop right there. You bumped into me and I feel pain all over my body. I want to go to the hospital to get my injuries examined. If you don't pay me 300,000 to 500,000 in medical fees, don't even think of leaving here alive today. Red Hair shot forward like an arrow and blocked the middle-aged man as he yelled with a domineering expression. He saw that the other party was easy to talk to, so he came up with an idea on the spur of the moment. He wanted to scam some money to compensate for his previous losses. TSK. What nonsense are you spouting? Our sect master. Our boss apologizing to you is already good enough, but you still dare to ask for money? I think you deserve a beating. Before the middle-aged man could say anything, several young men suddenly jumped out from behind him. One of them said sternly, "Yo, what do you want to do? I was hit." Redhead didn't expect the other party to have so many people. Halfway through his threat, the young man who criticized him just now rushed forward and grabbed his collar. "What do you want?" "Of course, I'm going to teach you a lesson." The young man sneered and raised his fist, ready to make a move. Don't move. You guys are too daring. I am White Fox Hero's underling. If you dare to touch me, White Fox Hero will definitely not let you off. At this critical moment, Redhead's mind flashed and he blurted out a lie. In his heart, he prayed that the title White Fox Hero would prevent him from suffering any more physical pain. Perhaps Redhead's prayer was answered, but the young man who grabbed Redhead was stunned for a moment. Then he slowly lowered his fist as if he wasn't going to make another move. Instead, he turned his head to look at the middle-aged man not far away, as if waiting for his command. "What? You are White Fox's underling?" The middle-aged man was obviously a little surprised. He stared at Redhead doubtfully as if he was thinking about something. Are you afraid?" Seeing that the middle-aged man hesitated when he heard White Fox Hero, Redhead thought that he was afraid. He immediately straightened his back and said proudly, "Don't dawdle. Hurry up and apologize to me. Give me some compensation for my mental damage and I'll let this matter go." Redhead was feeling smug while he was scaring the man. He didn't expect the title White Fox to be so useful. He could easily fool others. It seemed like he could use this title to show off in the future. I can wear out iron shoes and fruitless searching, only to find it by chance without even looking for it. The middle-aged man suddenly smiled creepily. He shook his body and released a powerful demonic aura. He stared at Redhead coldly and said, Kid, as long as you tell me where White Fox is hiding, I'll spare your life for now. Otherwise, the middle-aged man seemed to stomp his feet casually, and a huge pit instantly appeared on the ground. Redhead was shocked and he fell to his knees with a thud. This middle-aged man was the leader of the Kuei Mountain sect, Ma Wuxiu. Ever since he came to Songning City, he had been asking around for Xiao Chen's whereabouts. He even heard from the warrior guild that Xiao Chen had used the title White Fox. Therefore, when he heard Redhead's words, he could not wait any longer. Hero, I was just making it up. I'm not White Fox's underling, I'm really not. It's just because I met someone who called himself White Fox's underling, so I used his name to fool you. Please believe me. Redhead was about to cry. He could feel a surge of warmth involuntarily gushing out from between his thighs. The group of young people around also smelled a fresh stench. They all frowned and glared at Redhead. They took a few steps away. This seemingly arrogant but actually cowardly hooligan was probably scared to the point of peeing his pants. Where's the person you're talking about? Seeing that Redhead did not look like he was lying, Ma Wuxiu retracted his demonic aura and asked with a sullen face, I advise you to tell the truth. If I find out that you're fooling me, I'll make you wish you were dead. I mean what I say. Of course. That person is selling Youqiao at the morning market street. However, it's a little late now. I'm not sure if you'll be able to meet him if you go there. Redhead had lost all his courage to resist. He quickly replied and tried his best to put on a smile that was uglier than crying. At least you're sensible. Ma Wuxiu could feel that Redhead was telling the truth. He nodded and instructed a disciple behind him, go to the morning market street and keep an eye on that Youqiao seller. Once he contacts Xiao Chen, inform me immediately. Yes, sir. The disciple cupped his fist and accepted the order. He then asked for Redhead's address and ran directly towards the morning market street. As for Ma Wuxiu, he left Redhead, who had curled up into a ball, to attend to other matters. Although the Youqiao seller was Xiao Chen's underling, Ma Wuxiu did not intend to do it himself. If he accidentally alerted the enemy, it would be more troublesome to find Xiao Chen. Besides, Xiao Chen had too many underlings. During this period of investigation, he found that there were several in Songning City alone. Zhu Yingxiong, Yu Xiaochuan, Lu Jinming and so on were Xiao Chen's underlings, including the Xie family in other cities. Expanding the scope, there were also the Wang family in Tianfang province and the Shin family in Lan City. All of them had inexplicable connections with Xiao Chen. Ma Wuxiu was quite excited when he heard that Xiao Chen had so many underlings. He thought that as long as he kept an eye on a few of them, he would be able to find Xiao Chen himself. In the end, he arranged his manpower and waited for a few days. However, Xiao Chen seemed to have vanished from the face of the earth. He did not contact those people at all. In this situation, Ma Wuxiu could only be blinded. The only thing he could think of was to send someone to keep an eye on Xiao Chen's movements. After all, he still had a lot of things to do. Even if he was in the secular world, he had to take care of the development of the sect. Otherwise, he would be the sect master for nothing. Seeing that Ma Wuxiu and the others had finally left, Redhead was finally relieved. He sat on a puddle of yellow water and did not move for a long time. After being in a daze for a long time, Redhead suddenly slapped his thigh as he remembered something. Since this hero was White Fox's enemy, he should have become his disciple just now. He was so powerful that it would not be a problem for him to be his backer. That way he could also help him take revenge. He was so scared that he did not react. What a great loss. In the evening of the same day, when Xiao Chen was packing up his stall and on his way back, he felt that someone was following him from behind. Moreover, the tracking method was very clumsy. He thought it was the two girls, Xing and Ling Qianxue. However, when he secretly released his divine sense to check, he found that it was actually Lu Shuangshuang who was following him stealthily. Xiao Chen was a little surprised. Why was this girl following him for no reason? Could it be that she had confirmed that he was Xiao Chen in disguise? Thinking about it carefully, Xiao Chen found that it was quite possible that he had been seen through. After all, Lu Shuangshuang had done it with him several times. Besides, they had been in frequent contact before. She also knew him very well. She might have suspected him because of this. Although his appearance and voice had been changed, it was hard for him to change his habits and actions in a short time. When he pretended to be White Fox, he was also seen through by Jin Beibei. Xiao Chen raised his head and looked ahead. It seemed that Qing Minjing did not notice anything unusual. After thinking about it, Xiao Chen felt that since he had discovered it, he could not ignore it. Seeing that they were about to reach Tang Tang's place, Xiao Qin simply found an excuse. He said that he had to buy some vegetables and asked Cheng Minjing to go back first. What? I just saw the guy selling fried dough sticks in front of me. How come he disappeared in a blink of an eye? At this time, Lu Shuangshuang was hiding behind an electric pole with a pair of big sunglasses and a mask. Some passers-by who did not know what was going on all looked at her, thinking that she was a big star in disguise. Why are you hiding here? You are so sneaky. Are you trying to steal something? Xiao Qin suddenly appeared behind Lu Shuangshuang. He patted her shoulder softly and asked in confusion. Xiao Qin did not want to expose her. But after thinking for a while, he still decided to take action. Chapter 879. Although he had not encountered any danger yet, it would be dangerous if Lu Shuangshuang became suspicious of him and frequently appeared nearby. Who knew if this old thing had investigated the relationship between him and Lu Shuangshuang and sent someone to follow her? Curiosity killed the cat. Ah! Lu Shuangshuang was shocked by Xiao Qin. She jumped high and turned around, screaming. She asked incredulously, why are you behind me? This doesn't make sense. Weren't you near the stairs just now? Don't I often behind you? But sometimes I'm above you. Don't you remember? Xiao Qin said in a low voice with a teasing look on his face. He did not return to his original appearance, but his voice had returned to its original state. What are you talking about? Psycho. Pervert. Lu Shuangshuang first glared at Xiao Qin in disgust. Just as she was about to turn around and leave, she suddenly felt that the voice sounded a little familiar. She paused and asked with some hesitation and surprise, Who exactly are you? You still don't recognize me? I'm Yang Jianan. Or you can call me Xiao Chong. Xiao Qin touched his nose helplessly. He thought that Lu Shuangshuang could recognize his voice, but she did not recognize him. You're Xiao. Lu Shuangshuang covered her mouth before she could finish her sentence. She remembered that there were special reasons why Xiao Qin disguised himself as someone else. So she realized that she could not expose him directly. Looking at Xiao Qin, who looked completely different, Lu Shuangshuang whispered in surprise, How did you become like this again? Are you on a mission? It's a long story. Xiao Qin sighed and briefly told her what had happened recently. I see. You haven't contacted me for so long. I thought you didn't want me anymore. Lu Shuangshuang lowered her head and said shyly. How could that be? Xiao Qin pinched her cheek with a smile and whispered, If it weren't for the fact that the current matter might involve you, I would have come to you as soon as I returned to Songning. After all, my brother and I haven't seen you for a long time. We really miss you. Which brother of yours? Lu Shuangshuang was stunned. Seeing the evil smile on Xiao Qin's face, she suddenly understood and blushed. She lightly punched Xiao Qin's chest and pouted, You are so bad. The moment you saw me, you thought of this. Don't you want to? Xiao Qin teased her a little more. Seeing that it was getting late, he ruffled Lu Shuangshuang's hair and said, All right, it's getting late. I should go back. It's good that you know it's me. Don't tell anyone, not even Kerlin. Lu Shuangshuang nodded. Yes, I will keep this a secret. I'll take my leave first then. Xiao Qin nodded. Lu Shuangshuang hesitated for a while, stepped forward, tiptoed, and kissed Xiao Qin directly on the lips. Although Xiao Qin was stunned, he still kissed her back affectionately at once. The two lingered for a while and Lu Shuangshuang blushed. She looked back every 3 steps and left reluctantly. Cheng Minjing watched TV at home for a while. She waited for a long time but Xiao Qin didn't come back. She was a little worried, fearing that something had happened to him. After thinking about it, Cheng Minjing simply leaned on the windowsill and looked downstairs. She happened to see the scene of Lu Shuangshuang tiptoeing and kissing Xiao Qin. The young lady was so angry that smoke was coming out of her head. Well, there really is something going on between you and Lu Shuangshuang. That woman is too shameless. In broad daylight in public, she actually dared to take the initiative to kiss him. She must not be a good woman. Humph. Damn Xiao Qin, stinky Xiao Qin. I was worried about whether you were in danger or not. I didn't expect you to be flirting with a girl downstairs. I'm so angry. Cheng Minjing grumbled angrily. She felt that she had nowhere to vent her anger. She simply grabbed the pillow that Xiao Qin was sleeping on and punched it a few times. Only then did she feel a little better. After a while, she heard the door open. Xiao Qin came back with a bag of fruits and vegetables. Hearing the door open, Cheng Minjing rushed out of the room and glared at him angrily. Her eyes were almost on fire. Young lady, why do you look like you have a deep grudge? Did the rat steal all the snacks again? Xiaochen didn't understand and asked doubtfully. Last time, Qing Minjing secretly hid a few bags of snacks. In the end, before she started eating, all the snacks were stolen by the rats that slipped in. Xiaochen thought that the rats came to visit again. He was still puzzled. Could it be that the rat poison that he bought before didn't work? Xiaochen, where did you go just now? Why did you come back so late? Tell me the truth. Qing Minjing frowned and asked angrily. Didn't I tell you just now? I went to buy some fruits and vegetables for you. Tonight we will make a fruit and vegetable salad. Xiaochen scratched his head and answered with a confused face. Did the young lady's memory start to deteriorate so early? He had clearly told her before he went upstairs. Really? You just went to buy some things? You didn't do anything else behind my back? Qing Minjing narrowed her eyes dangerously and asked word by word. Yes. Xiaochen innocently raised the bag full of fruits and vegetables in his hand and shook it. He wondered, is there something wrong with your eyes? Can't you see the big bag in my hand? There's something wrong with your eyes. What stupid fruit and vegetable salad. I don't want to eat it. You can eat it yourself. Qing Minjing snorted heavily and said in her heart, Xiaochen, you big bastard. You were kissed by Lu Shuangshuang in public. You did something wrong, but you still dare to be so self-righteous. You really don't put me in your eyes at all. Young lady, what's wrong with you? I just went out for a long time. You don't have to be so angry. Before Xiaochen could finish, Qing Minjing impatiently covered her ears, as if she didn't want to listen to his explanation. Liar. You are a big liar. In addition to covering her ears, Qing Minjing roared again. She stomped her feet angrily, turned around and ran into the room. How did I lie to you? Young lady? Minjing. Xiaochen was shocked. He quickly put down the things in his hand and chased after her. Just as he ran to the door, he heard a loud bang. Qing Minjing directly closed the door. Xiaochen's nose was almost smashed. Then with a click, the door was locked by Qing Minjing. Xiaochen was confused as he recalled the meaning of Qing Minjing's words. Suddenly, his heart skipped a beat. Could it be? My ambiguous actions with Lu Shuangshuang downstairs were discovered by young lady? The more Xiaochen thought about it, the more likely it seemed. The window of the room was facing downstairs. As long as young lady stood by the window and poked her head out, she would be able to see the situation downstairs. Sigh. Xiaochen hit his head in annoyance. What a blunder. If he knew this would happen, he would have hidden further away with Lu Shuangshuang. After understanding the whole story, Xiaochen quickly used his primordial qi to open the door. He saw Qing Minjing sitting on the bed angrily. She was hugging his pillow and hammering it heavily. Her cheeks were puffed up like two big buns. She looked like a hamster. She looked quite cute. Ahem, Minjing, actually, Lu Shuangshuang and I have known each other for a long time. Xiaochen quickly shook his head and threw the thought out of his mind. What cute. Based on the current situation, it was better to hurry up and explain the situation. So, Xiaochen told her everything in detail, including how he was Lu Shuangshuang's fake boyfriend, and then accidentally had a relationship with Lu Shuangshuang. He spilled everything like beans pouring out of a bamboo tube. In fact, if it wasn't for Qing Minjing accidentally discovering this scene, Xiaochen planned to hide it from her for a while. No matter what, the first miss was Xiaochen's legitimate fiancé, and she had never liked it when he went around messing around. If this matter were to be revealed, wouldn't that be asking for trouble? But now that it had come to this, in order to coax Qing Minjing, Xiaochen could only tell her everything he could. Fortunately, this time Qing Minjing didn't interrupt Xiaochen's explanation again. She listened to him until the end. Are you finally willing to tell the truth? Didn't you say that there was something wrong with my eyes just now? Qing Minjing pouted and glared at Xiaochen. She took out her phone and quickly flipped through it a few times. She handed it to Xiaochen and said, Don't try to deny it. I took photos of all the bad things you did. This is the best evidence. This. Xiaochen glanced at the phone and felt a little depressed. Although the photos were a little blurry, he could still recognize Xiaochen and Lu Shuangshuang. In desperation, Xiaochen had to explain, I wanted to wait until this matter is over and then find a suitable opportunity to explain to you. I didn't expect you to be so smart and catch me. But you can't lie to me. No matter what, I am your mistress and fiancé. When you lied to me, didn't you consider my feelings? Although Xiaochen admitted his mistake, Qing Minjing was still a little unhappy. She couldn't accept being deceived by others. Especially being deceived by someone who was so close to Xiao Qin, it made her even angrier. I was afraid of making you angry. That's why I didn't dare to say it. Otherwise, I wouldn't dare to deceive you, Xiao Qin said with a bitter face. He felt a little bitter in his heart. If he told her about his romantic history, he was afraid that she would vomit blood in anger. Really? Are you really afraid that I will be angry? Qing Minjing looked at Xiao Qin suspiciously and asked. Yes. If you don't believe me, I can swear on the lamp. Xiao Qin felt Qing Minjing's suspicion. He quickly pointed at the ceiling and patted his chest. Chapter 880. Alright then. I'll reluctantly forgive you. You don't have to make such an old-fashioned oath. Just don't keep trying to hide it from me in the future. Qing Minjing's expression relaxed. She nodded, and her expression wasn't as ugly as before. She put down the pillow in her hand and took the phone from Xiao Qin's hand to play with it. I won't anymore. Alright, are you hungry? I'll go make some fruit and vegetables for you to eat now. Xiao Qin politely rolled up his sleeves and walked towards the kitchen. He secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He originally thought that Qing Minjing would make a fuss for a while. He didn't expect her to be appeased with just a few words. Qing Minjing lowered her head and played with it for a while. Suddenly she remembered something. She put down the phone and said, Wait, let me ask you something. Oh, what is it? Xiao Qin immediately stopped and turned his head. His heart skipped a beat. Could it be that Missy found out about my situation again? It's nothing big. It's just that. Has your cultivation been effective recently? Qing Minjing tilted her head and asked hesitantly. Cultivation? You should be, all right. Xiao Qin was stunned for a moment before answering hesitantly. In fact, he hadn't cultivated properly for a long time. Now, not only did he have to sell Youqiao to make a living during the day, he also had to be on guard against Miss Xing. At night, he had to worry about Ma Lanqiao coming to find him. He needed to maintain a high state of mind. Under such circumstances, how could Xiao Qin have the time to cultivate? Oh, Qing Minjing responded. She seemed to be immersed in her own world and hadn't come back to her senses. Xiao Qin thought for a moment. He guessed that Qing Minjing might have encountered some difficulties in her cultivation, so he asked, What's wrong? Are you in some kind of trouble? It's been a long time since we left the Quishan sect, right? I feel like my cultivation isn't having any effect. I haven't made any progress at all. I don't know what's going on, Qing Minjing said, a puzzled look on her face. She was indeed confused. Every day she cultivated according to the mental cultivation method, but the results were minimal. She did not make any progress at all. It couldn't be, right? Are you kidding me? Xiao Qin was a little surprised. He knew that Miss had been practicing hard every night since she returned to Songning City. Although she lacked the assistance of the sect's treasures, she shouldn't have stagnated in her progress. Really? I'm not lying to you. I'm still at the first level of Devil Master. Qing Minjing lowered her head and said weakly. She didn't understand what was going on either. Everything was fine when she was in the Kuei Mountain sect, and her cultivation speed was quite fast. Why was it that she couldn't do the same after returning to the secular world? This time Xiao Qin really felt that it was a little strange. Looking at Qing Minjing's conflicted expression, it didn't seem like she was trying to trick him. However, logically speaking, regardless of whether it was a martial cultivator or a demonic cultivator, the influence of the environment had always been relatively small. These two were completely different from cultivators. In addition to absorbing the spiritual qi of heaven and earth, cultivators also needed precious medicinal herbs as support. It could be said that the conditions for cultivation were extremely harsh. Just like Li Xiener, didn't she always stay at the first level of the qi refinement stage because she didn't have anyone to guide her? Yi Xiaoya was also a devil cultivator like Qing Minjing, but when she was in the secular world, didn't she also cultivate well? Of course, it might be because she had all kinds of spiritual herbs to help her, so her cultivation speed was faster. However, even without the help of spiritual herbs, she wouldn't be stagnant. Are you sure that your devil cultivation level didn't advance at all? Xiao Qin confirmed again. Yes, I'm sure. Qing Minjing looked at Xiao Qin pitifully, hoping that he could point her out. But in fact, Xiao Qin didn't know much about devil cultivators. Although in the eyes of others, he was definitely a devil cultivator because he was a disciple of the Devil Star sect. In fact, that was just a disguise. After all, the awesome thing about cultivators was that they could learn the martial skills of devil cultivators and martial cultivators at the same time, and no one would see through them. Well, although Xiaoqun didn't know it himself, he still had a teacher. Xiaoqun pretended to be deep in thought, and then secretly asked in the divine sense space, "Elder Heaven Ancestor, what's going on? Why can't Cheng Minjing cultivate in the secular world? Is there no spiritual herbs to help her?" A few days ago, Elder Heaven Ancestor had already woken up from his dormant state, but he could only speak. Old Demon Fire Wolf and Flame of the Underworld were still in a dormant state, and they didn't respond even when he called them. It would probably take a few more days for them to recover. Ask her to bring the mental cultivation method over, and let me take a look at it before I can make a conclusion. It's not easy for me to make a direct judgment with just her and you talking. Although Elder Heaven Ancestor had recovered, his voice was still a little weak. After hearing Elder Heaven Ancestor's words, Xiaoqun nodded slightly, and reached out to ask Cheng Minjing for the book. "How about this, young miss? Give me the niece's Heart Sutra first, and I'll see if there's any problem with it. I've told you many times that it's the Weaver's Heart Sutra. What niece and niece, why don't you have a good memory?" Cheng Minjing grumbled, and then took out the mental cultivation method from the side of the pillow and threw it over. She had already flipped through the book, but she still couldn't find any clues. Now she could only rely on Xiaoqun. Xiaoqun didn't answer and instead took the book and flipped through it, pretending to read it himself, but in reality he was showing it to Elder Heaven Ancestor in his consciousness space. After a while, Elder Heaven Ancestor finished reading the entire Weaver's Heart Sutra, and couldn't help but click his tongue in wonder. "Tisk tiske, I didn't expect this mental cultivation method to fall into the hands of the Kuei Mountain sect." "What's wrong? Is there something wrong?" Xiaoqun asked. "This is a mental cultivation method. It's not an ordinary demonic cultivation method, and it definitely can't be cultivated in ordinary ways. If she just cultivated it like that, she wouldn't be able to achieve anything in her lifetime," Elder Heaven Ancestor replied matter-of-factly. "What? Young miss is also a cultivator. Elder Heaven Ancestor, are you sure you're not mistaken? How is that possible? Could it be that you've just woken up from hibernation and haven't fully recovered, so you're mistaken?" Xiaoqun asked in shock. He couldn't believe it. How did young miss become a cultivator? *CK off. How could I be mistaken? I've seen this mental cultivation method before. It's called the Art of Silkworm and Phoenix, an ancient mental cultivation method. I don't know how it was passed down, but it was changed into the Weaver's Heart Sutra, Elder Heaven Ancestor explained impatiently. "Art of Silkworm and Phoenix? There are actually 5 words and it sounds very powerful." Xiaoqun exclaimed in surprise. "Of course it's powerful. Although this mental cultivation method can't compare to your Heaven's Stolen Fortune battle art, if it's cultivated by a girl, it'll be twice the result with half the effort. When it's fully mastered, it might not be any worse than yours," Elder Heaven Ancestor said. "What the *CK is this for real?" Xiaoqun was very surprised at first, but then he suddenly remembered that cultivators were a very powerful existence, so he could only accept this reality. He sighed in his heart that young miss was also a legend. "It's true, but she's not like you. It's not easy for her to cultivate to this realm without anyone's guidance." Elder Heaven Ancestor's tone was a bit more appreciative. "Is she really that powerful?" Xiaoqun was a bit unconvinced. "What, you don't believe me?" Elder Heaven Ancestor said lightly. "If you don't believe me, you can wait for the next time she shows her strength. Take a closer look and you'll feel it. Speaking of which, it seems like she's never shown her strength before." Xiaoqun thought about it and was speechless. During the time he lived with Cheng Minjing, he had never seen her real strength, nor did he see her fight with anyone. If it wasn't for the fact that she often cultivated at night, he would have forgotten about it. Thinking of this, Xiaoqun raised his head and said to Cheng Minjing, "Minjing, try to show off your strength." "What? Why would I show off my strength for no reason? What if someone finds out?" Cheng Minjing rolled her eyes and retorted. Recently, she had been very careful when she cultivated, and she usually tried to not let the devil chi in her body leak out. She was afraid that if she was not careful, she would be discovered by the Kuei Mountain faction and cause trouble. Now that Xiaoqun suddenly asked her to show off her strength, she naturally had to be cautious. "It's nothing, I'm just pretending." Xiaoqun shrugged. Suddenly he smiled slyly and teased, "Speaking of which, you really don't need to pretend. You already have it, anyway you just need to show it off. It's not like you'll lose out." So, Chen, do you believe that I won't kick you to death? Qing Minjing was not stupid. She could tell that Xiao Chen's words had a different meaning. She was so angry that her eyebrows were raised. She wanted to rush over and beat him up. What kind of person was he? This was too filthy. I'm just joking. I just wanted to see your strength. Maybe I can find the reason. I can't confirm it just by listening to you, right? Xiao Chen knew that he had misspoken and quickly tried to salvage the situation. You're right. All right, just you wait. Qing Minjing glared at Xiao Chen again. Then she activated her mental cultivation method and released a thick devil chi from her body. The strength of a level 1 devil master was displayed clearly. This. Xiao Chen was so shocked that his mouth formed an O shape. What kind of level 1 devil master is this? This is clearly a level 10 refinement stage cultivator. No wonder Big Miss has such a high requirement for the heaven and earth spiritual chi. When Xiao Chen was cultivating, it was also because the heaven and earth spiritual chi in the secular world was extremely sparse. Therefore he could only rely on spirit jades and heavenly treasures to increase his cultivation. Otherwise he would not have been able to reach this stage today. It was normal for Big Miss to have no progress. It would be strange if she had. After knowing the reason, Xiao Chen felt a little depressed. How was he supposed to explain this matter to Big Miss? If he wanted to explain this thing, it would definitely take a lot of effort. She was also a novice who had just entered the sect, and he only had a smattering of knowledge about cultivators. He couldn't possibly let her enter his divine sense space and directly talk to Elder Celestial, could he? Chapter 881. Xiao Chen, what are you thinking about? Is it that difficult to solve my cultivation problem? Could it be that something has happened? Qing Minjing looked at Xiao Chen frowning and thinking hard. She couldn't help but ask. She felt a little uneasy. What's wrong? Is there something wrong with my cultivation method? Sigh. Well, it's actually like this. Xiao Chen pondered for a while. Before Qing Minjing was about to explode, he finally sighed and tried his best to explain the difference between a cultivator and a martial cultivator. You mean, I'm a cultivator? Not a demonic cultivator or a martial cultivator. Qing Minjing was confused. Although she couldn't fully understand what Xiao Chen had just said, she still grasped the main point of the problem. That's right. You're a brilliant cultivator. Xiao Chen nodded heavily. How did you know? I've never heard anyone mention a cultivator. You didn't make it up to fool me, did you? Qing Minjing asked suspiciously. However, she felt that what Xiao Chen had said before seemed to be very logical. It didn't seem like he was lying to her. Because I'm also a cultivator. I say you're really daring. Where could I have come up with those lies? I must have had a basis to say that. Do you think I'm a novelist? Xiao Chen shook his head helplessly. How could such a meticulous cultivation logic be made up? What? You too? Qing Minjing was stunned and looked at Xiao Chen in disbelief. However, she suddenly recalled that Xiao Chen seemed to have been constantly drinking medicine and training since he was kicked out of the Xiao family and moved into her villa. Later he would encounter all kinds of dangerous situations from time to time. He was not willing to help her, but it seemed that he could escape successfully every time. Recalling this, Qing Minjing finally believed his words a little. Yeah. Otherwise, how could a good-for-nothing young master like me be able to kill so many people in such a short time? I can even trample on those troublemakers until they piss their pants in terror, Xiao Chen said with a chuckle. If he hadn't been saved by the Elder Heaven Ancestor by chance, perhaps he would have been killed by Chao Yuliang and the others. Does that mean that I can have those magical abilities just like you? Happiness came too suddenly. Qing Minjing couldn't accept it for a while and asked doubtfully. Well, I can teach you some special abilities of cultivators. Since you are a cultivator, you should be able to learn them very quickly, Xiao Chen said with a smile. Next, Xiao Chen told Qing Minjing how to transform, how to use the simple fireball technique and so on. However, when these skills were used by the young miss, they basically didn't have any lethality. After all, her strength was still too low. At most, she could only light a fire and wash her hands. At the beginning, Qing Minjing was worried that the fireball technique would burn her hands. Due to her nervousness, she couldn't successfully activate it several times. However, after Xiao Chen personally demonstrated it to her, her psychological barrier gradually decreased. Slowly, she was able to successfully activate the fireball technique. However, the weak flame was probably only enough to light a cigarette. As for the transformation, the young miss had no problem. After a few tries, she succeeded. However, with her strength, she couldn't maintain her appearance for a long time. Otherwise, the energy in her body would be exhausted very quickly. After learning the new ability, Qing Minjing couldn't help but be surprised and happy. This time she really believed that she was a cultivator. There were probably only a few in the entire Great Xia Kingdom who had such a rare and powerful existence. However, after being happy, Qing Minjing began to worry again. Her identity might be incredible, but it would be a waste if she couldn't increase her strength. In the past, when she was in the Kuei Mountain sect, not only was the heaven and earth energy abundant, but there were also plenty of treasures. There was no need to worry about the progress of cultivation. Now in Songning City, even living was a problem. She had to live in fear every day, let alone buying those expensive herbs for cultivation. Xiaochen was also very distressed. Even though he knew that the young miss was a cultivator, he didn't have the money to buy the herbs for her cultivation. Back then, he had to spend 1 or 2 million just to buy a set of herbs, and that was after the discount. The tens of thousands of yuan that he scammed was not even comparable to a drizzle. It wasn't enough to do anything. Apart from the herbs, the most essential thing on the path of cultivation was the spirit jade that could be used to assist cultivation. Xiaochen didn't forget that he had racked his brains to find a piece of spirit jade previously. There was no place to look for it now. However, if he could go to Little Hong's medicine store, he could use his identity to get some free herbs. But in this way, Xiaochen's original appearance would have to be restored. He didn't want to expose his identity so quickly. After all, the person in the medicine store wasn't Hongzhu and was only a stranger to him. Who knew if he could keep his mouth shut? It was better to be cautious. At the thought of this, Xiaochen missed Hongzhu and wondered how she was doing recently. After she left in a hurry, the two of them hadn't seen each other again. He vaguely heard that the Hong family seemed to have some problems, but he didn't know if she had solved it. In fact, Xiaochen thought of a way, which was to secretly borrow some money from Xia Zhili and make a trip to the Hakanamada desert. There were countless desert hermit scorpions there. If he could stay there for a period of time, not only would he be able to obtain spirit stones for the young miss cultivation, but he could also earn a lot of living expenses. However, the risk factor of this action was too high. Xiaochen didn't mind it, but he couldn't leave the young miss alone in Songning City. It would be terrible if she ran into trouble when she left. He couldn't think of a suitable way for the time being. In desperation, Xiaochen could only helplessly ask for help from the Elder Heaven Ancestor. Elder Heaven Ancestor, what should I do? I have no money and no spirit stones now. How can I let the young miss cultivation speed catch up? Isn't it simple? The Elder Heaven Ancestor said with contempt. Elder Heaven Ancestor, you have a way? Sure enough, Master is more powerful. Tell me quickly. Xiaochen was overjoyed and quickly asked. The two of you can do dual cultivation. The Elder Heaven Ancestor said matter-of-factly, since both of you are cultivators, the speed of dual cultivation will definitely be fast. It will be much faster than when you and Yi Xiaoya practiced dual cultivation. Dual cultivation? Xiaochen was shocked, and he immediately recalled the charming scene of him dual cultivating with Yi Xiaoya at that time. As he looked at the lovely and moving eldest young miss before him, he instantly let his imagination run wild and blurted out, Eldest young miss, I've thought of a good idea. We can dual cultivate. In this way you can upgrade your level very quickly. How do we do it? Just like you and Yi Xiaoya? Qing Minjing was stunned and asked with a red face. Although she was eager to improve her strength, she hadn't thought about further development with Xiaochen. Does this Xiaochen have an ulterior motive? Well, dual cultivation is actually very simple. After Yi Xiaoya practiced dual cultivation with me, she upgraded faster than taking an elevator. You're definitely better than her. Xiaochen nodded with a smile. I don't want to. I'm just your fiancé. Don't dream of having a relationship beyond friendship with me before we get married. I'm not as shameless as Yi Xiaoya. Seeing Xiaochen's wretched smile, Qing Minjing was sure that this guy definitely had bad intentions, so she immediately rejected him. No, dual cultivation isn't actually that. You're thinking too much. Dual cultivation means? Xiaochen rubbed his nose awkwardly and gave a simple explanation of the concept of dual cultivation. Of course, Xiaochen thought that if young miss was really willing to do that with him, maybe she would upgrade faster, like sitting on a rocket. But since she didn't have this idea, there was no need for Xiaochen to say it. If he was not careful, he would be beaten up for no reason. Then we still have to take off our clothes, right? Even if we don't take it off when we upgrade, the clothes on our body will be shattered. Qing Minjing blinked her eyes and raised the question in her heart. When she was practicing before, she had encountered this kind of embarrassing situation. When she upgraded, her clothes would be shattered. But fortunately they were all in the room at that time and no one saw it. Yeah. But we can practice dual cultivation with a curtain between us, so you don't have to worry about what I will see. Xiao Qin said after thinking about it. I see, then give me some time. Let me think about it first. Qing Minjing suddenly fell into a dilemma and began to struggle. She wanted to gain strength, but she didn't want to let Xiao Qin take advantage of her. Although there was a curtain, Qing Minjing also knew that with the ability of a cultivator, that curtain was nothing at all. Okay, then I will go and cook first. Let me know when you think about it. Xiao Qin also knew Qing Minjing's character. She would definitely be entangled in this kind of thing for a long time, so he was not in a hurry to urge her. Instead, he went to busy himself. The days passed by peacefully. The two still got up early to sell fried dough sticks. Although they were very tired and they would quarrel from time to time, they both felt that this kind of life was very warm in their hearts. Qing Minjing had gradually mastered various skills of a cultivator. After continuous training, her 6 senses had become stronger. Under Xiao Chen's guidance, she was like a fish in water when making fried dough sticks and fried cakes. She shared a lot of the workload for Xiao Chen. Therefore, the two's business became more and more prosperous. Early in the morning every day, there would be a long line waiting to buy their fried dough sticks. If it weren't for the fact that they were on the run, Xiao Chen would have thought about opening another branch. As for the matter of dual cultivation, the miss seemed to have completely forgotten it and never mentioned it again. If she didn't mention it, Xiao Chen couldn't take the initiative to mention it, so he could only put it aside for now. On this night, Xiao Chen was concentrating on cultivation in his room. Suddenly he felt a murderous aura approaching from afar. It was quickly approaching the direction of this community. Xiao Chen suddenly became vigilant. He thought in his heart, it seems that what will come will come. My whereabouts are still exposed. Chapter 882. But what puzzled Xiao Chen was, how did Ma Peizha find him? Logically speaking, it shouldn't be Miss Xing who snitched on him. Otherwise, Ma Peizha would have come to kill him long ago. But apart from her, who else in Songning City knew that he was selling fried dough sticks in the morning market street and living in Tang Tang's house? It was even more impossible for Lu Shuangshuang. They hadn't seen each other since the last time they parted. Even if they followed the vine to the melon, the vine would have been rotten long ago. Xiao Chen was puzzled. In fact, Ma Baobao had been staying in Songning City all this time. He had been looking for Xiao Chen like crazy, but he still couldn't find him. He had almost turned the entire Songning City upside down. In the end, after searching for a long time, one of his disciples finally found some connections in the warrior guild and found out about some of Xiao Chen's experiences after he fell from grace. The news was relayed to Headmaster Ma Peizha. Only then did he recall what Red Hair said before and finally locked on to Tang Tang's house. After confirming Xiao Chen's whereabouts, Ma Peizha brought his disciples and rushed to the neighborhood near the morning market street overnight. He went straight to the place where Xiao Chen lived and was ready to catch him in one fell swoop. As soon as he arrived at the unit where Xiao Chen lived, Ma Peizha saw the window on the 3rd floor was suddenly pushed open. Xiao Chen and Qing Minjing rode on their flying swords and rushed out with a whoosh. It seemed that they were ready to escape. Humph! You want to play the same trick again? You won't be able to escape even if you have wings this time. Ma Peizha wasn't surprised. Instead, he snorted and waved his hand in the direction of Xiao Chen. A big net with barbs whizzed out and directly covered Xiao Chen and Qing Minjing. F***CK. What the hell is this? Xiao Chen, who was standing on the flying sword, was startled. Before he could react, he was covered tightly by the net. He wanted to struggle free, but he didn't expect that there were countless barbs stuck to the net. They firmly hooked onto his clothes, making it impossible for him to break free. Just the fact that the barbs had hooked onto his clothes was secondary. The key was that when Xiao Chen's skin was pierced by the barbs, he immediately felt his entire body tremble. The surface of his skin was instantly paralyzed, and he could not even circulate his primordial qi. Unable to control the flying swords, the two of them instantly lost their balance and fell from the sky, falling straight down the stairs. Ah, Xiao Chen. Quickly think of a way. Qing Minjing screamed, her voice trembling. Although she also knew that as a cultivator, falling from the 3rd floor wouldn't be a problem, it was still the first time for her to directly face such a big crisis, so she was a little scared. Bang. Before Xiao Chen could reply, he and Cheng Menjing fell to the ground with a loud thud. Fortunately, their cultivation wasn't weak, so it wasn't a big deal. As they didn't have primordial qi to protect their bodies, although Xiao Chen and Cheng Menjing weren't seriously injured, they were still shaken to the point that they were dizzy. Ugh! Cheng Menjing groaned in pain. She opened her eyes slightly and realized that she wasn't injured at all. Slightly surprised, Cheng Menjing quickly felt that the bottom of her body seemed to be soft, not like the ground. Only after taking a closer look did she realize that Xiao Chen had protected her in his arms, using his body as a cushion to protect her. That was why she was safe and unscathed. Thinking of this, Cheng Menjing was a little worried and a little touched. She wanted to struggle to stand up, but the moment she moved, she touched a few wounds on Xiao Chen's body. Xiao Chen couldn't bear it and cried out in pain, "Ouch! Xiao Chen, how are you?" Cheng Menjing was shocked. She wanted to climb down from Xiao Chen's body, but she didn't dare to move too much. She looked around and saw that the net that trapped them was stuck with many sharp barbs. She panicked and didn't know what to do. "Menjing, don't be nervous, I'm fine. Think of a way to get rid of this net first, but the barbs on it seem a little strange. Be careful, don't get pricked." Xiao Chen gritted his teeth and endured the pain. He tried to circulate his primordial qi, but found that something seemed to have invaded his body, paralyzing several meridians, and his primordial qi couldn't circulate smoothly. "Okay, I'll try. But this net is so strange." Cheng Menjing tried to tear the net apart, but she felt that not only was she unable to open it, but it was also getting tighter. Moreover, there was a lot of mucus on the net that stuck her fingers and she couldn't exert any strength at all. "Ah! Don't waste your effort, this is an inescapable net weaved by the ancient spider spirit beast. You can't get rid of it. As for the barbs, I specially asked the craftsman to add them. I also smeared a poison that can paralyze a cultivator for a short period of time, and block the devil qi in the body. Even a Daluo golden immortal can't do anything about it," Ma Wuxia said proudly. In order to deal with Xiao Chen's untraceable flying sword, Ma Wuxia had gone all out this time. He took out the sect's only ancient divine weapon. "I can't believe that the sect leader of the Kuei Mountain sect would use such despicable methods. You're even more shameless than me." Xiao Chen didn't seem to be moved, but he was very anxious. He could only ask the heavens, no, Elder Heaven Ancestor, for help. "Elder Heaven Ancestor. Quick, help me think of a way to break this inescapable net." "Tisk tsk. Now that your primordial qi is paralyzed, you can't do anything. Also, Nethery is in a dormant state, or she could have burned the net." Elder Heaven Ancestor was not as anxious as Xiao Chen. Instead, he said leisurely, "Who asked you to be so impulsive, wanting to kill that Ma Wuxia? Look, you've gotten yourself into big trouble now, haven't you?" *CK. Do you think I want to? Stop making sarcastic remarks. That Ma Wuxia has already heated up his lunch, waiting for me to collect it. You don't want to see your disciple get beaten to death, do you? Xiao Chen was a little helpless. At this critical moment, Elder Heaven Ancestor still had the time to joke. "I say, Xiao Chen, you don't seem to understand. Although you can't use your primordial qi, your fiancée can. Why don't you just let her use a fireball technique to burn the net? However, with her level of cultivation, it will take a little more time." Elder Tian let out a long sigh and said unhurriedly, "Holy sh*T, you're clearly messing with me. Where do I have the time to wait for her to burn the net? How about, when Ma Wuxia attacks, you help me take a palm strike?" Xiao Chen was anxious. He didn't expect that at this critical moment, Elder Heaven Ancestor would not think about something practical and keep coming up with some stupid ideas. "Sure." Elder Heaven Ancestor agreed happily, but then he said, "But I haven't recovered to my best condition, and there's no little demon and a Nethery to help share the damage. Even if I help you block it, you'll die." *CK. Xiao Chen was speechless. He had a glimmer of hope, but Elder Heaven Ancestor extinguished it directly. Depressed, he whispered to Cheng Menjing, "Young lady, I'll distract Ma Wuxia later. You use the fireball technique I taught you as soon as possible to burn this net." "Okay, I'll give it a try." Cheng Menjing nodded slightly and replied softly. Although Cheng Menjing didn't know if she could do it with her strength, she could only do as Xiao Chen said. "Xiao Chen, how about it? Have you finished saying your last words to your little lover? I don't have time to wait for you to write your last words. I'll send you down now to be buried with my son." Ma Wuxia was afraid that Xiao Chen would play some tricks again, so he didn't bother to talk to him and directly slapped Xiao Chen. "Young lady, now is the time." Xiao Chen gestured to Cheng Menjing to destroy the net, while he gritted his teeth and protected her behind him. Looking at Ma Wuxia approaching quickly, Xiaochen secretly prayed that he would accidentally step on a banana peel when he rushed over and get seriously injured so that he could buy some time. However, Xiaochen's wish didn't come true. The road between him and Ma Wuxia was smooth without any banana peels. Just as Ma Wuxia's palm wind was about to touch Xiaochen, a man in black with a bag on his back suddenly blocked in front of him. Without saying a word, he directly raised his hand to meet Ma Wuxia's palm. Bang! There was a loud noise. The man in black also displayed his extremely strong strength, forcibly blocking Ma Wuxia's attack. After the two powerful demonic auras collided, it formed a shock wave that spread in all directions. The turbulent airflow sent all the Kuei Mountain sect disciples who were standing at the side to watch the show flying. You're in the great perfection realm of Demon King level 10. Ma Wuxia didn't expect that someone would rush out to stop him. In a panic, his breath was slightly messed up and he was shaken a few steps back. He spat out a mouthful of blood. He stared at the man in black in front of him, his face full of horror. Just now Ma Wuxia was afraid that Xiaochen had a backup plan, so he didn't use all his strength in that palm strike. However, the man in black's palm strike had the strength of the great perfection realm of Demon King level 10. Therefore, although the two of them were of the same level, Ma Wuxia was obviously at a disadvantage when their palms collided. However, the man in black didn't feel good either. Although he didn't spit out blood like Ma Wuxia, his internal organs also churned, and he was almost shaken out of place. Who are you? Tell me your name if you have the guts. Sneaking around, what kind of man are you? Ma Wuxia asked with a sullen face. Since he already knew that the other party's strength was the same as his, Ma Wuxia didn't dare to act rashly. I'm the hero bandit who robbed the rich to help the poor, Robin Hood. I hate people like you who bully the weak the most. You actually killed this kind of commoner, so shameless. If you still want to live, then go back obediently. The man in black snorted coldly. Although he couldn't see the man in black's face clearly, Xiaochen could immediately tell from her voice and figure that this person was no doubt Chick Xing. Her claim of Robin Hood was definitely made up. However, what puzzled Xiaochen was why Chick Xing would suddenly help him. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.